T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man,
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes,
exclusive. Oh,
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up
blast off. You are now tapped into the coolest reptile podcast in the world. I'm your boy MJ. What is good, everybody? Happy Thursday. Feels like a Friday. Feels like it's party time. Oh my God, let me put my headphones on. I just want to make sure I sound good. Ooh, I sound good. What is good, everybody? It's your boy MJ here. It's your first time tapping in. Welcome. Do me a huge favor. Hit that like button. Very important if you hit that like button. Keeps me relevant in the YouTube world. But then definitely hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you're on top of every single podcast that I drop here on Chop Talk with MJ podcast. I appreciate all my subscribers. Much love. Appreciate all the early birds in the comments. One sec. But yeah, guys, you know what? I sound good. So I'm just not a headphone guy. I can't, they bother me. But you know how we start things here, man. But I'm so excited for tonight. Been waiting for this guest for over fucking 2 years. Definitely over 2 years. We're going to get into it. But for now, freshest and bestest rodents delivered to your doorstep. I go through Cold-Blooded Cafe because they're number one. The fucking best in the game. Day one pinks to mammoth rats. That's Cold-Blooded Cafe. Make sure you go check them out. Shout out to Stephen Ashley. Shout out to John and Alex over at Sim Container. If you got eggs, put them inside of a Sim box. Less stress. I'm telling you right now, Sim's the best. Shout out to Stephen and Ashley over at Focus Cube Habitats. PVC built enclosures out of Texas. They are not playing around, making hella moves in this game. Go check them out on Instagram. I have major projects in the works with Focus Cube Habitats. I appreciate them so much. Thank you for your support, and yeah, much love. Shout out to Jesse and the entire Freedom Breeder crew. Number one stainless steel racks in the game, hands down. So make sure you go check them out. If you have a Freedom Breeder rack, you already know where you're at with that, man. Professional level of snake keeping, breeding, or rat or rodent breeding or keeping. I always fuck that part up for some reason. Shout out to my boy who's having one of the best times of his life right now in Mexico, making the biggest moves. My boy Miguel Garcia, always evolving pythons, always inspiring, always killing the game. That's my boy right here. Day one, real shit, day one, homie, in this game. And he's always been a huge supporter of me. Thank you so much for everything that you do, man. Not only for me, but for everyone else in this hobby. Check him out on Instagram. Check out his YouTube. Shout out to the whole entire AEP family. And please be safe down in Mexico. Alan, another big bro in the game, another inspiring individual. Check him out. Amazing basins. Definitely got his shit together when it comes to working with these basins, which is not easy to do. Not too many people have been successful breeding these, and he has, and he is looking good this year with a couple projects. I don't want to talk too much into the future, but I'm telling you right now, he's definitely somebody you're going to want to go follow on Instagram. Go over there right now on IG, Amazing Basins. He also has ball python projects going on, and he's a part of the Wolf Pack. My boy right there. Shout out to my boy Alan. Much love, bro. I appreciate you. And then shout out to my other homie, Blake Stewart, making big moves in the game. I feel like definitely developing a marketing strategy for anybody out there who wants to elevate their brand or take their marketing to the professional level, which I feel like if you're in this for the long run, why wouldn't you want to do that? So if you're looking to invest in the best, Stewart Design is where it's at. Dude, these catchphrases or whatever that I'm coming, I'm just saying these. So I want to start patting these because I guarantee Blake's going to take that one and probably put it in his agenda book. I'm just kidding. Shout out to my boy Blake Stewart. He's definitely a real one and definitely inspiring the kind of stuff that he's doing. So shout out to my boy Blake. And then shout out to Mark Bailey from Mark Bailey Reptiles, somebody who I highly look up to in this game. He's an OG, triple, not fucking around, man. I'm telling you right now, like this guy is highly respected amongst everyone who's in this game, and he sponsors the trap. I'm telling you right now, it's amazing. Thank you so much, Mark Bailey. Appreciate your support. Go check him out on Morph Market. I'm trying to get this man active on Instagram. I'm going to get him there little by little, but for now, all his heat is on Morph Market. So go over there right now. Go get your hands on a Mark Bailey production. You can thank me later because this guy's been involved with some major projects that are feeding people's table. I mean, putting food on people's tables today because of people like Mark Bailey. Mad respect. Shout out to Rami, big heavy OG, one of the leaders in the industry. Reptile Super Shows, #1 show on the West Coast. You got to go check it out. Make sure you put it on your agenda this year. We have Pomona, Anaheim. Well, Anaheim's next, and then Pomona, then Vegas. Whole lot of things going on over at the Reptile Super Shows. So make sure you go follow them on Instagram. And just like I said, make sure you guys do what you got to do to make it to a Reptile Super Show, as well as the NARBC shows, which, I mean, come on, I don't really need to twist your arm to go to NARBC show. Definitely go link with your favorite breeders, link with your new favorite breeders, link with homies that you just became homies with, all sorts of shit at NARBCs and Reptile Super Shows. So I got to say shout out to Brian Potter, Brian Potter and Bob Ashley, those two guys, as well as Rami, three of the highly biggest individuals in the game by far, just because how much unity they bring for all of us. So make sure you guys go to these shows. 110% something that's worth doing, and it will change your whole perspective. Even your spouses, man, that's what changed. I took my spouse to a show, her whole mind changed. She's like, okay, I get it. You know, and some people just need that kind of like push, and then they get it. Because of those guys, people get it. Thank you so much, Rami. Thank you so much, Bob. And thank you so much, Brian. Thank you to Phil Goss, US Arc. Come on, guys. Let's head over to YouTube. Let's go subscribe to the new US Arc channel, and let's go to Instagram. Let's support US Arc. Let's continue to fight this damn ridiculous fight against people who want to take our animal rights away. That's ridiculous. But we're going to continue to fight. So please go follow Phil Goss, or go support Phil Goss by going down to the link below. Go to the US Arc website and become a member. And if not, just come talk about it. You know, and if you have any questions, hit somebody who's very passionate like myself about US Arc. So shout out to anyone who supports US Arc. Big props. And then shout out to anyone who follows me on Instagram. So if you want to know what I got going on other than podcast stuff, like, you know, my projects, snakes I work with, alpacas, anything, I'm very active on Instagram. So go over to Instagram, go give me a follow, mjexoticscartal with an A, not an E. And then make sure you go follow the Instagram, Trap Talk with MJ podcast Instagram page. I want to say shout out to my Twitch viewers. We're live on Twitch tonight, baby. Woo! Monday we weren't, but now we are. Hella. So if you support me on Twitch, thank you so much. Twitch viewers going up. If you like to support this channel, anything more than a subscription or a like or a comment, best thing you can do is send me a super chat on this live. Any question for my boy Dave Levinson, anything important that you want to do, or if you just want to send something to US Arc, super chat that. And I send all my super chats to US Arc. Also, if you want to send any other donation, please go ahead and send that to my PayPal at exoticscartal with an A, not an E. And then last but not least, the family that's building and growing by the day. Shout out to the Snake Trap Sessions Patreon family. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all your ongoing support. If you're out there if you out there want to become more in depth with the podcast, if you want to know what I have going on behind the scenes, if you want to be a part of a fucking wave, I'm telling you right now, go down to the link below. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family and come fuck with us, man. As soon as you join, you become a part of a Discord which has tons of channels, bunch of different things going on. We get together every Sundays. I throw private events that are invite only for my Patreon members, and we're going to talk about some of these private events that this guy might be going to. This is my homie Dave Levinson. So we're going to talk about it here in just a second. But if you want to become a part of the Trap Patreon family, go to the link below and join right now, man. But what is good with all my early birds? I see so many early birds in the building, and I want to say much love to everybody who is here. But I am not fucking around on this episode. I'm not messing whatsoever because I have somebody already ready to go. The good thing about this guy, he probably doesn't even know that he's live on the air right now. But the good thing about this guy is he has good internet, he has good thigh muscles, and he has good cheeks. Holy shit! Here is Dave Levinson of Custom Scales.
Can you hear me okay? Are the earbuds working?
You sound great. How you doing?
Doing good. Can I throw a sponsorship out there really quick?
Throw a sponsorship. Any plugs? Go ahead and get them out there right now, please.
Okay. It's a personal sponsor. I just want to thank DS Balls for these shorts. I always promise people, if you give me something to wear, I'm going to wear it. And these things are amazing.
How's the airflow?
You know what? I'm not wearing underwear, so it's pretty solid.
Oh my God, Dave, I waited 2 years for this episode. It is so good to finally see you, my man. I mean, it's good to see this part of you too. Don't get me wrong. Either way, you're here. How you doing, man? How's life?
Life's life, man. Just excited to be back here doing this, honestly. You want more details about life and how great it is?
No, actually, I just want to know like what you've been up to. Like, well, first off, hold on. I mean, okay, for reals, are you going to stand and talk out of your ass the whole time, or I mean, I don't mind. I just want to mentally prepare for this, so I'm not laughing because I'm laughing.
I mean, you want me to switch it up a little bit for you?
If you can, I got.
Oh, now we got to change everything.
There he is. Wow, look at him. The beard looks healthy. You look healthy.
Thank you. Oh, this is going to fail us. We're going to have to make it right. I wasn't ready for a face shot. I thought we were going ass the whole time.
You're good. It's okay. Take your time.
No, it's going to take a second. I'm propping it up with little pieces of tape and labels. Yeah, why don't you talk to me while I do this? Engage in conversation, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. So, Dave, just, like I said, appreciate you being here. For the people who really don't know your involvement in the hobby currently, kind of tell us exactly what you do right now in the industry.
Did you just say people don't know me?
For the people who don't, for people know you for sure. Just
I'm gonna make this fast. I work with a lot of different species actually. We just did the company name change, which is awesome. That's a big reason of coming on here too to talk about that. But was RL Exotics for years. Before that, it was Morph Graphics, and the original company was Dave's Got Herps. If you go on Fauna, you can still find my account on there. But right now, heavily breeding ball pythons, heavily breeding boa constrictors, blue tongue skinks, a bunch of different colubrid projects. Been getting into garters lately. Really liking rosy boas recently too. I've been fixated on some rosy boa stuff. But
cool.
We'll see.
I'm glad to hear that you're getting into garter snakes because I hear other people getting into neat little species like that, like house snakes and stuff like that. But more importantly, Dave, you're other than taking care of the collection that you take care of and whatnot, you do a lot of shows. I feel like vending's a big part of what you have going on, right? And I want to know how it's been since COVID's been kind of like, chilled out in a sense, and things are kind of good and semi back to normal. So, how are things with shows and whatnot?
Well, it's funny with the show thing. Me and Bob had a conversation about this pre-COVID on how, not having the shows, it was going to hurt the industry. And in the end, it didn't hurt the industry at all. Don't get me wrong, really generally miss the camaraderie, going to the shows, talking to people, doing what we always do. But, the show's been good. Tax return season, it's still going strong right now. So, every show we've been doing recently has been pretty solid. We've been all across the I think I was in San Antonio or El Paso. It's in El Paso. I was in Colorado a couple weeks ago. I think I'm going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee next weekend. I think I've been on the road for 14 straight weeks.
But I mean, that's kind of something you've been doing for a while, right? I mean, that's kind of part of your package deal that, you going to shows, all this traveling. I mean, since I've known you, you've been hitting up shows constantly.
No, for sure. The show grind has been always my thing. Even when I kind of had my company when it was a little smaller in the beginning, I really didn't do any sales online. I just held on to everything for all the shows I was doing.
Right.
But no, I'm a show whore, man. I love doing any show, any city that I like, and get to a new town, see some new people, and eat some new food I haven't had yet.
That's good to hear. So, as far as, the production that you have going on, I mean, I know, does it change each year? Because I know there's a certain, I don't want to say mass production, but I mean, how many clutches are you producing ball pythons compared to boas right now? Like, what's that looking like?
I mean, realistically, what our goal every year should be with what we're doing here is somewhere around 45 to 50 boa litters. And when it comes to ball pythons, in all honesty, we need to be doing about 1,000 clutches a year, upwards of 1,200. Last couple of years, we've had good years, but what we've been doing the last couple of years is we'll cycle one half of the building, and then the next year we'll cycle the other half of the building. So one half of the building is mostly certain recessive projects. So the only downside of what we're doing it that way is we don't always have the variety I want. We breed the one side heavy, and we make a ton of pies, X amount of codoms, a lot of candy stuff. Then I get on the other side of the building, and it's just all codoms pretty much, some sunset stuff, puzzles, tri-stripes, desert ghost. So I got to start just breeding both sides and staying motivated. But usually it's like in every 6-month period, we switch one side and move on to the other.
Wow. 1,000 clutches, bro. That's fucking insane. I mean, and then as far as your experience with that amount of clutches, I mean, how long have you been working with like this kind of production for?
I mean, here's the realization. Back when I was kind of doing my own little grind, it was, I think, 40 ball python females, about 20 boa constrictors, probably about 30 skinks, and miscellaneous bluebirds again with corn snakes.
Wow.
And that was good. I love that. Of course, when Ben passed away and I started working with his animals, it went from this awesome little thing I was doing in my house, everything was super casual and cool, to literally go into a collection that had over 2,000 animals in it. So it was kind of like learn how to do it real fast overnight when you're talking on a large scale. Even when I was a smaller scale, I was doing it full time, but I really balanced it out with building display cases. And then, I had guys like Jeff at JMG, Jeff over at Boafile, and Ben Rennick were sending me animals on consignment. So I had a few real close friends. I was taking their animals out to the shows, making a little bit of money, sometimes taking animals in on trade for the weekend. And, that was all just a building process, what I was doing. But now it's literally going from a mom and pop to like a Walmart size operation.
I think one of the things I genuinely love about you, Dave, and this is something that you personally you didn't do like on purpose. I feel like it's just the stars aligned with this type of shit, is the kind of people you've associated yourself with since being in the hobby. Not to say that everyone or been friends with has been legit, but I'm saying like for the most part, you have stories with people who are no longer here, and it's a very unfortunate, but these are people who left such a major imprint in this hobby. Ben Rennick being one of them, right? And I'm just curious, man, with Ben being your boy, and him passing away, did you feel like pressured, or like you were the only one who could take his collection over that time, and that you basically didn't have a choice? Or what was really your thought process when that happened, as far as when that time came to you taking over?
Well, I mean, honestly, to be real with you, everything kind of happened fast. I got the phone call the day after it happened. Within a day after that, I was out there and, really just trying to be helpful, do whatever I could. And to tell you the truth, I really shut a lot of people out around that time. A lot of people offered help, but everything was just so confusing when I first got there. I didn't really have an understanding of what the hell happened. I probably should have taken a little more help, in all honesty, because I kind of just took it all on. But it was a bit much. I knew the facility, I knew the collection. I talked to Ben a good bit. I went back and forth with guys like Chase Baker, who was helping me fill in the blanks on certain things I didn't understand. Him and Ben talked almost on a daily basis, if not every single day. So, it helped out a lot when I first got there. But Tell you the truth, yeah. Like when I got there, it was kind of like just shut everybody down and figure this out. And it was mainly animal care. Clutches were coming out like crazy. Incubators filled up immediately. I had to start building incubators to keep up with production. Bed bred the collection very hard before I got there. So things were just exploding everywhere. And, you know, I've always been very knowledgeable on ball python stuff. I feel like if you're going to be in this industry, you're going to have to know ball python stuff. So when I got in there, there was a lot of stuff, you know, I was already familiar with the mutations and what to do with them, what not to do with them. But after a little while, you know, I've been having a lot of dinker projects. I started training my eye by not looking at the labels because I wanted to try to pick up on his dinkers. And his building was not set up where one gene was in one section. You'd have a rack system with a clown, a sunset, a 6-gene spinner combo, 3 dinkers, and then maybe a head albino. So in his head, he knew where everything was. And don't get me wrong, after being there for a little while, I could walk anywhere in the building and know what animal I'm looking for. But, you know, definitely later on, I organized everything a lot better, put genes in a certain area to make things easier on me for the breeding season. But I don't know, man, I just kind of tackled it. You know, it was stressful in the beginning. I won't pretend like mistakes weren't made early on, just from going on that small scale to a big scale. Because again, you really got to look it all overnight, it felt like.
I can only imagine, man. You know, but I mean, like, this is what I was saying about, you know, the reason why I love who you are and what has happened, because what better person to take over a collection? You know, from what I see, you fucking hustle. You're there, bro. I mean, I see the grind, you know, even though I don't really talk to you like constantly or whatever. I don't need to, you know, I could go to shows and just see that you're working and you grind. But I don't know. I think you're, you know, I can't really tell you how good of a place you are on your side, but from what I see, everything looks good and you look like you're in a good place right now, man. And I'm happy to see it, just so you know.
No, I appreciate that, man. Honestly, I love the work. I could work 7 days a week and never think anything of it. You know, a lot of times when the 8, 9 o'clock rolls around, it's time to leave the building. I always wish there could be a couple more hours to be down there working with the animals. So nothing I'd rather be doing. Love every day of it, even when it gets a little bit stressful.
So, I mean, talk about the stress, which I'm sure with everything that you do with the amount of animals you work with. What's your work crew like? Who helps you when it comes to a day-to-day at the facility you work at?
We have about 4 people that come in and out. Some are part-time employees, some are full-time. Essentially, they're all welcome to be full-time. But, you know, some put in like 20 hours a week. The next week, they might put in 40. A little unorganized, but, you know, I don't like having to bring in too many people, so I like to be loyal to the people I have and just, you know, make them work for the position. So, you know, maybe we'll have some weeks they can't put the hours in. Maybe it's something personal. I just try not to stress about it. Just kind of pick up the slack and what they left behind. You know, really one of the hardest things about being in a collection this size, for my way of going about it, is I want to do it all always. You know, I want to clean the shit up. I want to do the pairings. I want to do the feeding. I just want to do everything. You can't. You know, a guy in my position with a collection like this, I got to be more organized. And that's still something after dealing with this for 4.5 years. I wouldn't even say I'm organized yet. You know, I'm still doing jobs that I shouldn't necessarily be doing, but I just do them anyways. My main focus really should always be sales, rotating animals in the building, doing stuff like this, working on social media. But because I do so much with the animals, like right now, social media is suffering. We lost our Instagram page about 1.5 years ago because it got hacked, lost all 40,000 followers. I haven't even made a new page yet. Facebook, I completely stopped posting on there when that went down. And, you know, I got a little busy last year, some personal stuff, so I stopped doing the podcast. So in all honesty, I completely dropped off the face of the earth. But now trying to get back into a rhythm, trying to do things the way they need to be done. But again, my problem is I do jobs I shouldn't be doing. I should have other people around me doing them every day.
Yeah, I mean, even when you were doing just your private stuff before you took over Ben's collection, you were still doing, like you said, about 40 ball python clutches and about 30 boa litters, right? And
it was 20 boa constrictors. I was on average only like 5 to 7 litters a year.
Okay.
Really, the heavy lifting for me was building display cases back then. You know, I'd do a show on the weekend. I'd come home, take care of all the animals, and then I'd build display cases nonstop for 3 straight days. And then I'd get on the road and go to another show. So where there was a lot of animal maintenance, you know, it's funny now, I look at what I got to do on a daily basis compared to the 100 or so animals I took care of then, maybe 150, and like, shit, man, I could do that in an afternoon and have a whole week to myself.
What kind of display cages? Like just regular boxes, or were these like custom type shit?
Well, it was acrylic display cases, tabletop stuff for the shows. I had a couple models out there. There's a lot of people. Bob Boo had all my stuff, but he just switched it up recently to ARS. You know, back in the day when I sold Bob his display cases, it was all deli cups on his table, and his girl bought him display cases for, I believe it was his birthday. But yeah, no, I was probably building about 200 sets a year, and I didn't really have a lot of competition. You know, Reptile Emporium was doing it. I think he's backed off. ARS actually wasn't doing them at the time. And then you had the bars model. But marketing, I was one of the few guys that was really marketing on like king snake and fauna. So I was getting a lot of orders through there.
Wow. And did you have like your print or like a logo on it at all? Like, did you have like kind of like a, no, not just, it was just.
They were lucky to get a business card when I sent them the display case. Honestly, it was, I am so old fashioned with this, man. Everything I do, and even today, a lot of it's word of mouth. Right. I know we're way past that time in the hobby, but I still do a lot of things based on word of mouth.
Right. That's true. And, you know, and I feel like that's the legit kind of name you can make for yourself is word of mouth, because I think we talked about this before. You know, you have people that would say one thing where it's the opposite. You know, you have your two, but at the end of the day, when you're building actual legit relationships, especially with people in person, that word of mouth goes a long ways. You know what I'm saying? And it really does affect your business, either good or bad. Depends what kind of person you are. You know what I'm saying?
No. And again, don't take business advice from me, but I actually went about 3 years without even printing a business card. If you needed me, all you had to do was find the guy with the mustache. A little different now, but back then it was just find the mustache guy, and it wasn't hard to find me.
I mean, I talk about this. I mean, I think I talked about this with Megan when I had Megan on the show, but I remember the first two shows seeing you, I was, you know, I knew that you knew Forrest, but I didn't have the balls to come talk to you. Like, you felt like all I could do was just look at you from afar, and I kind of scoped you out, like not like in a weird way, but just like trying to figure out like what was going on with you.
I get it, man. No homo. All's well, man. Look across the room. No shame in the game.
But
no,
I love meeting people like this. I'm sorry. I just love meeting people like you who have a unique, real characteristic about themselves. But go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
You know, with that comment, man, that's one of the best things about this hobby is, you know, there's a lot of great personalities. Unfortunately, some don't last forever. But, you know, I've met a lot of great people in this hobby. It's hard having normal friends when you have friends in the hobby that love what you love and are, again, different backgrounds, different everything. I dig it, man. Like I said, this hobby, everything I do and everything I've done for the last 10 years of my life, this hobby has come first, sadly. But I love what I do.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we all have choices in life, right? So as much as you said, sadly, it is something you want. You know what I mean? This is something you want to do. And the animals could do that to you, man. I mean, I mean, as much as work I'm doing in my life right now, it's all happy work to me. Like, I love it. I don't really look at it as work, even though it is work. You know, I'm kind of like where you're at, Dave, where, you know, I'm nowhere near where I need employees, but I do know that I love doing everything myself, and I do want to grow. So that I do know that could be a problem when I do need help. You know, I do got to learn how to let go and just like, all right, trust somebody, which I have to ask you, Dave, when you took over this collection, what kind of crew was already there? I mean, did you have to start over basically? Did you have to hire a bunch of people? That couldn't have been easy if that was the case, but I'm curious, what was that like, having to build a team or keep the team you already had when you took over?
Well, the team wasn't necessarily non-existent, but Ben did all the work himself. Lindley would come home at night, help him out with some things occasionally. You know, for the longest time, it was just them doing it. But, you know, William Philippek would come in, and he continued to come in after Ben passed away to help me with all the bigger constrictors, the retics, the berms, the anacondas. Another friend, her name is Tina. She was coming in and helping out, or was helping out with Ben. I didn't personally have her in, but, you know, I kept a relationship there and talked to her at all the shows and still do to this day. She's actually working on a pretty sick pair of pants for me right now. Hopefully it's going to be done pretty soon. I'm getting antsy. But no, really, you know, Ben just did it all on his own. And, you know, when you looked at the scale of things, it almost seems impossible. But, you know, the guy just worked, and he worked smart. You know, there was little things that I started doing. You know, I was talking to Chun after I got there, and, you know, he gave the advice of getting a shop vac and using that for spot cleaning. And that made a big difference. You know, just rocking a shop vac to the building, sucking up a turd, giving it a wipe down, throwing some bedding in, and moving in. So, you know, it was having to find ways to work more efficiently when you didn't have enough people around you.
Damn, that shop vac thing, that's player advice right there. I mean, especially if you have a lot going on, you know, you're just, when you wipe and you keep it moving.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's an old school thing in the Kluber community, especially when you use Sandy chips. A lot of those guys would just have shop vacs, and I don't know if you know about Kluber turds, but they're usually like this big. So you just go in there, suck everything up really quick, and move on.
Yeah. Kluber's shit a lot, man.
Nonstop, man.
And yeah, nonstop. This is why, like, I tried to put my mangroves at the time in nice enclosures, and I was in, and you know, they're not mangroves you could just stick your hand in there because you're gonna get fucking tagged. So like, I'm very OCD. Like, I'm not somebody who like needs to wipe every turd off, but like, I don't like just seeing shit sitting there in front of their hide sometimes. So the thing is, once you clean it, it just keeps coming, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, you just, I don't know. What are you gonna do?
It's nonstop. It's funny. The T-positive anaconda is notorious for the moment you get in there, you make her cage perfect. You clean every single edge. You put all new bedding in there, all new paper towels. We kept them on paper towels because Ben always liked keeping them on paper towels. So we kind of kept that rolling for him. But you literally clean her cage, be perfect. You'd walk away, you come back, and the whole fucking cage was just smeared in shit. Like, and it wasn't even like she took a shit in a corner. It was like she took a shit in the corner, picked it up, and just started fucking rubbing it on everything.
And then the calcium shits are the worst, bro. When it gets hard, it's like what? How does it turn into cement? I'm confused. Especially boas calcium shits, like that's the worst.
No, you're right, man. Honestly, I don't think I have a favorite shit in the industry. I will say that garter snake shit with their diet with so many fish, worms, and you know, smaller rodents. I mean, it's a pretty fucking awful shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious because at the point when you took over Ben's collection, was there any time where you had to downsize or get rid of some of the stuff, or what was going on with that?
Honestly, yes and no. When it came to adults, they didn't really see any reason to sell anything. You know, when days came up where it was like, man, I need a couple bucks for this, couple bucks for that, you know, we might sell a little part of a project off, so on and so forth. But really, it was what was there was kind of the foundation. Even some animals that were like 400 to 600 grams, we just held them all back. But like I said, when I got there, it was nonstop clutches, and he had 3 incubators going. And for the life of me, I don't know how he did it with just 3 incubators. Because at one point, I was putting 2 to 3 clutches in a bin in an incubator just to make it work because of the lack of incubator space. But again, ran out, bought a couple of refrigerators, set up a couple new incubators overnight when necessary. But yeah, man, like I said, it was just a constant flow of babies coming in every day, things hatching, moving them around. You know, we sold things when we needed to, made sure the bills were paid. But, you know, being in this hobby, you almost have to have a hoarder mentality. So we did hold a lot of stuff back.
I mean, what was Ben's hoarder mentality like? Do you remember like how his holdback game was all about? And like, was that easy for you to kind of like replement or like kind of pick up when you took over?
Well, you know, with Ben, so Ben was a big company that got giant overnight. Ben made a decision one day, mainly because he couldn't keep up with his customer base, to expand. So he did about I want to say 2-year period where he literally didn't sell a single animal. Every single animal he produced, he held back. So his idea to expand, do it with your own stuff. Now, the cool thing about that, but not cool thing about that, is a lot of his animals started from a group of like 90 import females. We have the most random shit popping up in the collection always. And one thing that pops up all the time is Desert Ghost and Cryptics. Ben was producing Cryptics back in 2014, and he was labeling them Joppas. He's got a project called Joppa, which I always joke around was kind of like the poor man's orange dream. But it's got like a unique eye stripe, and we're not talking like the cryptic eye stripe, just a very subtlety to the eye stripe. And that was one of the things that I picked up on when I was trying to train my eye for all those Dinker projects. But within that, after all the cryptic and krypton stuff became a little more known about 3 years ago, I started going back and looking at his Joppas, and there was a cinnamon Joppa from 2014. That's cryptic. There's a pinstripe Joppa. I found a pastel spot nose Joppa. Again, all cryptic animals. But the weird thing about it is, or not weird thing, is he held the animals back, I'm assuming based on the characteristic of the eye stripe and a little bit of color, but not all Joppas are cryptic or heterocryptic. Justin got an animal from Ben years ago, it was a lemon blast Joppa, and when he brought it to a clown combo, he made pinstripe and normal cryptics or kryptons in there. And he was asking me if I had seen anything like that, so on and so forth. And that made me start paying more attention to what was going on with the project. But I have made clown Joppas, but they're a color phase difference. Side by side with a cinnamon Joppa or a cinnamon clown Joppa and a cinnamon clown, you could see a big difference in color. So he had a Tinker project. He labeled it Joppa because of a color. And in the end, some of them ended up being heterocryptic. And I'm sure when I run a DG through some of those this year, some of them are going to probably be het DG also, because that's another thing that pops up randomly in his collection is just, I'll breed random stuff together for the codom stuff for the pet industry, and I'll make 2 to 3 gene DGs in there just because they're het DG and we didn't know it.
Dude, that's insane. And one thing that stood out to me, Dave, and we could talk about it now, and because I you threw this out there, and I remember it stood out to me. I was like, I gotta remember to ask Dave about this Junior guy, because you brought up Junior and how much he had an impact on your up and coming in this. But I remember there was also genes you talked about that he's worked with and whatnot that I've never even heard of or even seen. I don't know if it was the Campfire. Does that sound familiar or something about it? I forget.
If you're talking Junior, probably meaning Junior at JMG, leopard geckos and hognose. A Junior in the ball python industry, I'm not sure who that is. And as for the Campfire,
he has a dad. There's 2.
Yeah, that's Junior and Senior. That's JMG Reptiles. Yeah, Senior does all the baby artwork with the a turtle body with a baby's head on it. You've probably seen it popping up on the internet. Daniel Tosh took one of those images and made a meme about it a few months ago. That's pretty much their thing. Junior, I learned a lot about medical stuff. Junior is a very unique character in the industry because he got going on this very young. I want to say he was like 12 or 13 years old when he started getting into reptiles to breed them. Now, his father was already a breeder. I think he was working with redfoot tortoises, leopard geckos, and maybe some other stuff. So Junior is a second-generation breeder, but Junior is one of the smarter guys I know. He's got a lot of the leopard gecko mutations you see in the industry now, they started. And I think at their peak, when he was still in his teens, they were producing somewhere in the range of, I think, 10,000 leopard geckos a year. So Junior is definitely one of those guys that I met along the way that I learned a lot from. I don't like sticking with one species, especially when it comes to the communities. I want to know everything about everything, so I try to bounce communities a lot. So running into Junior at the shows, me and him being about the same age bracket, both being efficient, we started talking. But kind of jump back a little bit to the Campfire deal. That was a Ben deal. That was a project that Ben did on accident that just made a really phenomenal looking animal. And the sad thing is, but we kept it very secret for the longest time, how to make them, because it was so fucking easy. I didn't want everybody to do it. I wanted to have a fighting chance to get ahead on a couple projects. But the genes in it is cinnamon, calico, and inchy. Very simple, nothing crazy. And do you remember the bonfire that we did, that spider with the crazy red on it?
Yeah.
So the bonfire, which is one of the cooler animals we've ever made, was spider, inchy, calico, and then we substituted cinnamon with black pastel, and it turned the animal red. Very unique animal, kind of gave us a direction of where we wanted to take things for the future with that project. But the Campfire all started with Ben, and we've always tried to keep the theme going with campfires. We have the Campfire, the brush fire, the bonfire, toasted marshmallow, and I think we got a couple other weird little names out there. So anytime we make a new combo, I want to keep the theme going for them, so we try to think of something clever to go with it.
I mean, is this anywhere near what we're talking about? I mean, I just happen to just take a gander real quick, but I mean, this snake right here to the right, does this look familiar or no?
Yeah, that's the bonfire. That's black pastel, spider, calico, and inchy.
Fucking bitching, bro.
But the crazy thing too is some of these pairings and accidentally making nice animals when you're working with a lot of genes.
Right.
I gotta take the picture up. I'll send it to you when we're all done with this. But it's that baby on the pile of other babies in the clutch. Nothing else looked anything like that. It was a bunch of lesser combos and fire combos and other stuff. that one animal just hit those 4 perfect genes to make that. In all honesty, if it didn't happen in that clutch, we never would have tried it again. But again, we got lucky.
What did you guys do with that snake? Did you hold back and sell it, or did you sell it?
I'll tell you the truth, this is going to sound kind of silly. I still got him, and he's about 2 years old, and I haven't even bred the guy yet. Keeping him big and fat. And we got a couple animals like that here. We got an animal that Ben produced called the and it looks like a gray matter, but in the grays, there's all these like yellow flakes and orange flakes and red flakes, black flakes, some white flakes. Really peculiar animal. I think it might be like a spot nose pastel gray matter. There could be something else in there. He put on the label because he didn't even know what the hell was in there, because it was like a 5-gene male to like a 4-gene female. So until I breed that one, I'm not going to know, but it was one of those unique, one-of-a-kind animals. So I just don't breed it. It's more like a showpiece.
I mean, if you could go back to things that you would breed or things that you would be working with if there was no takeover of the collection like you're doing now, if there was no custom scales in your life, you know, I'm glad that there is. But let's just say if we go back, if it was just, was it Morph Graphics that started all this for you? Morph Graphics, right?
Morph Graphics was the change in 2011. In 2002, when it was 2005 when I did my first show, I was Dave's Got Herps. I thought it was funny, rolled with that for about 6 years. And then me and a good friend of mine down in North Carolina, Ryan Moore, had the idea to maybe start a clothing line for the industry. So the clothing line was called Morph Graphics. We rolled in, we printed out a fuck ton of t-shirts, and around the time that it happened is when Pro Exotics had their fire and lost everything. So we made this Chad Brown t-shirt, and we took them to Tinley. I think we ordered like 1,000 of them, thinking we could sell them and then donate the money to them. And then nobody bought them. I'll be honest, out of that 1,000 t-shirts, I got about 950 left in a box in that closet over there. More than likely at this upcoming Tinley, I'm just going to fill a truck with them and just fucking hand them out to everybody. I have probably moved about 7 times since we've done that print, and I just keep on moving these t-shirts from place to place. Yeah, but you know, in all honesty, to start anything clothing line in this industry and not already be popular in the industry is not easy. Not to be cocky, if I started it now, it would have more of a fighting chance than a guy that you saw at the show starting it years ago that only had his presence by getting drunk at Tinley and talking to people at the bar till 4 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, not only that, you have the social media presence, which is big now, way bigger than it was before. And you have all these other people tagging you, shouting you out. So it would actually, you know, selling shirts is actually typically easy, especially if you have a name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, you know, we had some really neat designs. I was pretty proud of it. I'd love to go back and start doing it again. Again, I still got boxes of them over there. I could hand out all those as like a promo, essentially, for anything new we're going to do. But, yeah, I'd love to go back to it. But, man, you know, there's just only so much one person can do.
Yeah. No, dude, listen, at the end of the day, everything we're talking about is still time and, you know, work, you know, and this is talking about on top of everything that you're already doing, you know? So I trust me, it's not easy. I can tell you that much.
But, you know, another thing too, talking about like collection sizes, right. You know, what I would have been doing, focusing on,
right.
I don't know. You know, boas were the very first thing I ever read when I got in the hobby. It really kind of got things going. Not to be an asshole, I was breeding crested geckos first, but I'm not going to count that. They kind of did it all themselves. They laid their own eggs. They hatched in the cage, and it was set up like a bioactive. It was completely hands-off for me. The crested gecko money gave me money to pay for boa food and boa caging, essentially. But, you know, in this hobby, like the tough thing about working with multiple species is, what do you want to be known for when you're not in the hobby anymore? It's really hard to have an eye for 20 different species and make the best stuff possible. You know, you got guys like Junior that worked on line breeding leopard geckos for 5 or 10 or 15 years before he got where he was going. His father worked on line breeding corn snakes to make them patternless and hot pink. And, you know, numerous other people in the industry. You know, people are known for one thing, not the 20 different species they worked with. So that's the toughest thing about this hobby is, again, I love everything, but if it wasn't for what I'm doing now, my focus would have probably been the garter or corn snakes, boa constrictors, and blue tongue skinks. You know, this would have been the 12th year that I've been breeding Northern Blue Tongues, but I gave them the year off. I figured give them a good year off, do their thing. No reason to breed them every single year. The collection's probably at about, I'd say 80 or 90 females, maybe. I got to double check, but I know it's in the ballpark of that. But I just figured I'd give them a year off, just let them chill out and kind of get back to it next year. But, you know, there's for a while there where, you know, me and Cheryl were working on a lot of blue tongue skink projects together. And man, you want to talk about some polymorphic traits that do amazing things overnight? That's blue tongue skinks. You know, in the blue tongue skink community, there was a few different color phases to look at. And then we had a lot of new people come in, and it felt the whites here. Is that me or you? Oh,
That's you.
don't worry, man. That was a fluke.
That's
But
we're good.
yeah, that was a fluke, man. I promise you. So, but with the blue tongues, what we found is within 2 generations of breeding them, we were going from a dull reddish orange color to like Gatorade red, like just insanity. And that's cool. You know, a lot of things, again, take years and years and years of line breeding. Skinks doesn't seem to be that way. Like these polymorphic traits in there are just very strong and show up really quick.
Now, if we could kind of vert back, nothing wrong, nothing against skinks.
No, man, I talk a lot, man. You gotta keep me in check. That's your job.
You're good. You know, you're good. Trust me. We don't talk about skinks enough on this channel, so we've got to at least hear it from the man himself. But I got to revert back to the typical breeder being more successful. Like, let's say you have somebody who breeds boas and ball pythons. For the most part, I don't know exactly what your ratio is, but people seem to be a lot more successful breeding ball pythons than boas. And I hear more horror stories about breeding boas, babies dying, females dying versus ball pythons. What's your take on that?
Okay. Well, a lot has changed in boa breeding. If you want me to get really crazy with it.
Yeah, let's get crazy. I get crazy. I'm taking a piss.
All right. So without MJ, so Vin Russo was one of the guys that started breeding his female boas smaller, but at an older age. And he did that based on the fact that they were getting like adult Guyanas in, adult Surinams in, animals that you would normally see somebody in the hobby breeding at 10, 15, 20 pounds. They were coming in the country, grab it at 5 or 6 pounds. So where back in the day, like if you talk to P. Call would tell you a boa can be ready to breed at 2.5 years old when it comes to your females, and you want around 10 to 12 pounds. Now, what we do, similar to Vin, is we will raise our females up for 5 to 6 to 7 years. We'll get them somewhere around 5 to 7 pounds, and then we'll breed them. Now, this past year, we did breed quite a few females for their first time in that 4 to 6 pound range, and our percentage was crazy high. I want to say 8 out of 10 of those females went. Now, the older females that we have that are 10, 20 pounds, it was like a 60% of them went. And that's when you talk to boa breeders, a lot of people say the average is 6 out of 10. Another thing that I think with boa breeding that people make mistakes on is, and this is with a lot of species, if you read all the old literature on breeding any species, that's all based on imports that came in the country, first, second generation animals. Now, especially with boa constrictors, we're like 6 to 10 to 20 generations into these animals. They're no longer cycling at what South America is doing. They're cycling at wherever the fuck they're cycling. So where a lot of people start breeding their boa constrictors in like, we'll say August, some people wait till September, some people wait till November. We start around August. And on August 1st, I'm going to put all my boys in. And for the next 3 or 4 days, I'm going to look at them. If any of them show the girl any attention, they're in, they're breeding, all is well. If they're in there for 3 days, she's over here, he's over there, I take them out. September 1st rolls around, I put them back in. Long story short, the first of every single month, I will put a male in with a female that hasn't gone yet to catch her window. Because again, her window is not cycling on South America time, it's cycling on whatever fucking state you live on or wherever it wants to cycle. So we had 1 year where we actually had a boa litter every month of the year. And when I was a small breeder, I actually had one male cycle through 5 females over the course of a calendar year. I got 4 perfect litters, and the 5th litter was a slug out. He got an ovulation every 2 months. We fed him all the way through. He never went off feed. And we put him on a female, and he would just go at it, and we catch her in our window. We didn't do any temperature cycling. We didn't do anything out of the ordinary. I know you're saying boa breeding's scary, but you got your ovulation this year. I know we haven't got the babies on the ground yet, and it's scary till you see them. But I think with boas, if you pay more attention to the species and don't so much focus on how someone else did and is successful with it, just find your own way, you're going to be good. And honestly, that goes with just about every species out there. There's 1,000 ways to breed a ball python. You got to find a way that works for you.
Now, I'm just curious what your method is once it comes down to game time. The babies are out once you walk in. I mean, can you kind of walk me your steps, what you do? Do you pull the female, then pull the babies? Do you pull the babies and the female? What's exactly should I be prepared for when that happens?
Prepared to get bit. Be prepared, man. That female's can protect those babies. You know what? If you got a little portable camera and you know when that window is going to be, you got to set that camera up in there because it's so cool to see a boa give birth because the female is just so careful with the babies. Like she'll hover over them, kind of look at them. She won't put any weight near them. She's just really cautious about moving around too much after she has her babies. So we've been lucky enough where we'll put cameras in on like a swivel head so I can kind of move it around on my cell phone, keep an eye on it in case she's not laying where I thought she'd lay them. But no, boa breeding, you know, I used to say I was afraid of eggs and I hated the idea of eggs because it was one more chance for me to fuck something up. But the reality is with live birth, there's still a lot of room for error. If you got a temperature spike, she might go into labor early. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. But, you know, similar like ball pythons, man, like we had a boa one year push out a deformed preemie baby in 3 slugs. And then 15 days later, a perfect litter. So again, a really primitive animal, but its body knew that it was wasting its time putting any energy into those slugs and that baby, pushed it out, and then waited 15 days to have the rest. And you've probably seen it maybe in ball pythons or you will in the future. Same thing. You'll go in and sometimes a ball python will push a slug out and you're not expecting a clutch for a week or two. You know, females that push their eggs out of the, you know, female will push her egg out. You still incubate it, but a lot of times that egg goes bad. Not because she rolled it around, because she knew that egg was going to go bad, similar to the slug she pushed out. She's just not going to put any energy into it.
Wow. And there are cases where some of the females will eat the babies. Is that correct or no?
You know what? Kenyan sand boas, I've seen it.
Right.
Colombians, not so much. Anacondas, being in the same family, of course. I've seen that a lot with anacondas. And I've seen it with Brazilian rainbows. But Colombians, I don't think that's a really well-known thing to be happening. I couldn't tell you of one time it's ever happened on my end.
Okay, I was just curious. I mean, I've heard stories with the anacondas, of course, and I just know same species families. But you know, I just was curious if that's something you should be concerned about if you're expecting a boa litter.
Here's the thing. I think that's a great question because I'd ask everybody who works with every species that same question just out of curiosity. Junior, not that we keep on bringing up Junior, but you know, I love Junior. With hognose, he sets alarm clocks all through the night to check on them because literally a female hognose will lay an egg and then eat it and then lay another egg and then eat it and then eat so many of them, have to regurg them all up. So, yeah. So you got to keep a close eye on like that species. They are notorious for eating their eggs.
And I feel like that's why I go back to, you know, ball pythons being a lot more easier for the most part for some people because you don't have to keep an eye on so much of a ball python. Like if you fucking pair them and you know, and you're not trying to take a male to 7 females and all that ridiculous shit. I mean, it's going to happen, you know, but with the boas, I feel like that window is very important. I mean, I feel like there's a window too with the ball pythons, but I mean, I don't know. Like it took me 3 years to get this first boa litter, which, you know, I'm not complaining, but ball pythons, I seem to just be like, it's just happening like clockwork, you know, but I don't know.
Well, you know, ball pythons are easy. And they come in every color you could imagine, every pattern you could pretty much imagine until we see something else that we didn't think we could imagine. So between the species, like you said, being very easy for somebody coming into the hobby with no experience, having success, and an unlimited amount of colors and combinations, it's the best species to work at if you're coming into this hobby. It is legitimately the gateway drug that you will not OD on. There are a lot of species that you can come in on this hobby and get burnt out easy. Ball pythons are not it. And then eventually you're going to take a little bit of that ball python money and you might chase something else you like.
Exactly. That's the starter package if everything goes right. For sure. Now, the babies, right? What as far as establishing ball python babies compared to boa babies? I mean, what's that experience like?
I mean, I find that ball pythons could be a little more finicky. A lot of boas, literally, first meal could be a frozen thawed. If you get 20 boas in a litter, there's a chance 12 or 13 of them are going to take a frozen thawed for their first meal. With ball pythons, sometimes a little more finesse in there. You're going to start out maybe to try to get them on a rat pup immediately because that's the best idea. They don't take a rat pup, now you're going to throw a mouse in front of their face for a couple of weeks. That doesn't work, you might throw an African soft fur in front of their face. And that doesn't work, you're going to probably have to assist feed them. Tell you the truth, if we go 3 weeks post-hatching and we haven't got a meal in the animal yet, we will do an assist feed. And I'm not talking about jamming a meal down the animal's throat. I'm just simply talking about getting the mouth or getting the head of the mouse just to the back of the throat, closing its mouth on it, setting it down lightly, and letting it eat it itself. Some people think when you talk assist feed and everything else, you're having to jam this rodent down their throat. And there are some species that you can assist feed. And I know some ball python guys that do that, but in all honesty, it's just not necessary. It's extra stress on the animal. And I feel like there's room for error for you making a mistake on your end, jamming something down something's throat.
And when you said 3 weeks after hatch date, I mean, is this 3 weeks after first shed or 3 weeks literally out of the egg?
3 weeks after setting up.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. If we miss 3 consecutive meals, we're going to do 1 assist feeding meal. And a lot of times after that 1 assist feed, they just do it on their own.
Just had to clarify. I don't want people out there taking that where like, oh shit, 3 weeks out of the egg, you better fucking shove some down this thing's throat. No, don't do that.
I really hope nobody fact checks this because I'm sure I'm going to lie a lot on here. So I don't think anybody's going to do that.
I mean, I'm wrong a lot on here too, so don't worry. But not that you're wrong. But anyways, all right. So I mean, yeah, I do feel. I mean, I've had people like Ryan Young on here who kind of, instilled in my brain how quickly people go to assist feeding right off the bat, and they freak out because their snake's not eating, and I'm not saying necessarily with ball pythons, but when I was talking to Ryan about this, we were talking about chondros, so I mean, I do know that any snake that absorbs enough of that yolk can essentially go quite a while before it really rolling over due to not having any meals in it, right? Or is that just something?
I think the reality is a baby ball python could probably go maybe like 3 months before it shows any signs of like really deteriorating. I mean, don't get me wrong, probably at about a month and a half, 2 months, you're going to see some deterioration. You're going to see some loose skin on the sides. Sometimes you just run in animals that are failed to thrive. You want to put maximum effort into making everything work, but some animals just don't survive. And then you also got to put in consideration, and what if this animal needs to be force fed every single week? I know a guy in the industry that has an animal that's worth like $10,000. The animal breeds really good for him, but has never taken a meal on its own. Literally, it's been assist fed its entire life. The animal had a value. It eats every week. It's healthy as can be. It's happy. It breeds, but it's just what it took to keep that animal going.
Right.
I hope PETA doesn't hear that. That's not going to go over well.
Fuck PETA. Now, I mean, to go back to what you're saying about, an animal that you would eventually have to continue to assist feed. There are people 110% who will still sell an animal like that, not even telling the person that it is being assist feed. Not everyone does that, but I do know that there are people who rather just put that problem into somebody else's hands and not really deal with it and act kind of stupid. I mean, I'm sure you've walked across that scenario before. Am I right?
Well, to comment on that, it kind of goes when like you have somebody hit you up on Morph Market or whatever, and they're asking about an animal, and like when you tell them you guarantee sex or you tell them it's eating good or whatever else, like they're used to the opposite. Everybody in this industry has been fucked over at least once. A lot of people get fucked over a lot when they chase deals that are a good deal for a reason. Yeah. Somebody's trying to sell you an animal for half price, there's probably a good reason for it. So to get to the point, when it comes to the consumer, a lot of the consumers are extremely weary because of that one time they got fucked over by that guy who just wants to run his business that way. We personally don't really fuck around because I think I've got a pretty squeaky clean reputation all the way back from when I started breeding. I don't think you can find any bad reports on me. And I think I had one bad write-up on fauna classifieds because I didn't ship a display out on time. I was sick as a dog. I didn't communicate with the lady, and she wrote a bad review on me. Other than that, I'm pretty sure we're good.
Haven't seen it pop up since.
No. But no, here's the thing. Everyone can run their business however they want. You know, you got to look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day. If you want to do some bullshit like that and fuck somebody over to make $1, do it. But, you know, even with us doing all these shows every weekend, we bring the animals home. We give them a meal, like within a day of coming home. If anything doesn't eat, it doesn't go to the show that weekend. Anything that goes off food for even 1 week, we don't even want to put that stress on the animal. And then because of our schedule being crazy like that, even when we're at the shows, my entire table is hooked up on heat tape when I got 2 thermostats running. So we give them a nice warm spot to be on. They're still able to digest their meals. And honestly, it keeps the animals a lot more calm at the show, I find.
No, there's been people who have continuously, like, I don't know continuously, but there's been stories of people just being piece of shits, you know, like story after story, but they still sell animals. I feel like it's nearly damn impossible to do something where you can't sell any animals. I mean, who do you know, or is there anyone you know that has been such a piece of shit in this hobby where he got banned and couldn't sell one snake after that ever again?
Here's the thing. I've turned over a new leaf. I can't shit talk anymore, buddy. Are there people over the years that I've ran into? Yes. There's people that have been in this hobby for 20 plus years that are literally still selling garbage animals and getting away with it, but it's literally all based on their prices. They roll into a show, they have a really cheap price on everything. And, you know, this industry as a whole has been the fastest growing pet industry in the world for the last 10, 15 years. Like, it's striving and not slowing down. So why these people are still in business is because every year we get so many new people coming into this industry buying their first pet, they don't know better. So every year there's a whole new crew of people coming in that these people can fuck over for the first time because people they've already fucked over don't come back and buy anything. We get repeat customers constantly. If something doesn't go right, we make it right immediately. I send you an animal doesn't eat for a couple of weeks, I'll send you a label, send it back. Let me get it going again. I'll send it back to you. Like, we really go above and beyond because in all honesty, I want longevity in this hobby. And, you know, with social media and everything else, it's very easy to do one stupid thing and be taken out of the hobby, or at least blacklisted, let's say. Right. So here's the thing. Like I said, I bought animals from people. I've got fucked over. I just don't really want to fuck people over. You know, that's the toughest thing about a new breeder coming into the hobby is they kind of come in all, you know, ready for this amazing experience. And then they get fucked over, and maybe they get an animal that kills part of their collection off, or maybe they get mites for the first time, and then they get burnt out and they get out of the hobby. So honestly, the more people in the hobby, the better. I don't think any of us should ever be scared of competition. You know, the more the merrier.
I think the biggest scare right now recently that had happened, I don't want to, you know, like you said, I'm not going to say any names or anything, but the most recent, as far as current events that people really concerned about is a breeder selling snakes that have IBD, you know, and I don't know how important or, you know, or how serious that matter is if that's the case, because I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, I've had somebody who dealt with IBD from another reptile breeder, and I feel like that could happen almost anywhere. But I mean, is IBD something you've had to face at all working with boas or any other species like that, or what's your take with that?
So IBD is a really, I hate to say a fun conversation, but it is definitely an old school conversation in the hobby. And it really depends on who you talk to, on what side of the story you're going to get. You know, I know the guy you're talking about, and I actually sold a snake to the girl's friend or the guy's friend, and they were going into more details about it. But lost my train of thought by saying that. Let's go back to the beginning. So Elliot Jacobson down at Florida State did all the research on that. And back in the day, you had some boa breeders that were very negative about it. You know, one personal friend of mine made a joke that you could run your car over, or you could run your boa over with your car, send it to Elliot Jacobson, and he'd say it died from IBD. IBD is a very, very real thing. But I think similar to some of the other diseases like Nido, I believe in the carpet python community, I know that went really crazy for a bit. There was a lot of animals that were getting sick. And in the end, we didn't cure the problem per se, but I believe the strong animals survived and lived with having a problem, and the other ones didn't. Leopard geckos, all leopard geckos in the wild, as far as I'm aware of, all have cryptosporidium. That's Mother Nature's way of population control because they don't have that many natural predators. And also, males can have really wide ranges and a lot of girlfriends, and they can hammer out babies like you wouldn't believe, worse than feral cat can. Oh yeah, back to IBD. So IBD, I don't think IBD ever went away. But the realization is, back in the day when IBD was a big topic, Elliot Jacobson was telling people that they had to put their entire collection down. There was nothing you could do about it. You had to kill them all off. It's over.
Wow.
Not everybody did that. And currently, you don't really hear about it. I know this is a hot topic right now based on what's going on with that one breeder. And I know there's going to be some other, I think, a podcast that's going to be in the next day or so where they're going to be talking about it in detail. But if IBD was what they said it was, there wouldn't be a boa in the hobby right now. And not only would there not be a boa in the hobby right now, you would have snakes at the shows dropping left and right because IBD is extremely fatal for a ball python. And there's some people, and without knowing for sure, have argued that it is a airborne disease. That would mean when you roll into every single show in the country, there's boas and balls in every single one. Ball pythons be rolling over dead left and right because of it, and they're not. So is it out there? Yes. Arena virus is what they're calling it in Europe. And I know some European buyers, before they're willing to take a boa, they will ask you to have an arena virus check. But honestly, man, I think if everybody got their collection checked, I hate to say it, I think everyone will find something wrong. But once you find that out, what are you going to do about it? When leopard gecko guys, because cryptosporidium is nothing to fuck around with, it's very lethal. When leopard gecko breeders that are responsible get a new mutation from the wild, it doesn't go into their collection. It goes into a whole nother building with a few females over there that he can breed it to establish a colony. Now, the babies produced will not carry on the disease. Now, as for IBD, arenavirus, NIDO, and all this other stuff, I want to say it doesn't pass on to the babies because, again, if it did, this entire industry would have been fucked years ago. So without knowing everything about it and exactly how it can and cannot pass on when it comes to giving birth, you know, we're always very cautious. You know, there was a video that Gourmet Rodent did years ago that Petco had them dunking a clutch of ball python eggs in bleach and water. And I think they had to keep it submerged for upwards of a few minutes. They took them out, dried them off, and then put them in the incubator. That was something that Petco had them do just to make sure that the eggs were clean and the animals coming out were even cleaner. Now, it seems kind of silly, and I don't think they were forced to continue on doing that. I know Ben did put a video out on that. Benjamin did. I could probably dig it up. I haven't seen it in years, but they showed the whole experiment and why they did it and so on and so forth. But it just probably wasn't necessary. Like with cryptosporidium, there's something that the female leaves behind that must kill anything on that egg. And once it's buried, you're good. Now, if that egg comes into contact with feces, saliva, the baby, if it can live on the outside long enough, will get it too. But, you know, without knowing for sure with this IBD thing, I do think IBD can be blown out of proportion, but I'm also not undermining the topic. You know, I know it's serious. I know people have lost collections over it. I believe that as long as you keep all your animals clean, keep your water fresh and everything else, even animals that have something going wrong with them will live long lives and be just fine. But of course, if something's wrong with it, you got to put a lot more time into it.
Now, going back to, you know, getting your collection checked, right? If somebody, because I have friends who are all about that life, man. They fucking NIDO test, you know, which as they should. But for somebody to get their boas checked, how often do you recommend that if they did want to do that? Like, if once you get your boas checked once and it's clean, when would you want to do that again, or should you not? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that all comes down to your quarantine. You know, if you got an established collection, you've tested everything, everything's perfect, then your collection's perfect. The moment you introduce something and don't get it checked out, you put everybody in danger. So the reality is, if you check your collection and just check what comes in after that, you'll do just fine.
Right.
But again, now with that same logic, let's say you go and do a bunch of shows. You're taking animals out of your collection. You're probably gonna have to let a couple people hold them when you go to the shows. They're coming back. Now, if that was the case and I decided to hold back that animal, you'd want to get it checked. So it really also comes down to your quarantine.
I mean, that being said, I mean, are you careful? I mean, A, do you only bring stuff for sale at shows now, Dave, or do you bring any stuff to like kind of show off to certain customers or whatnot? I mean, what's that?
If I bring it to a show, I bring it to sell. The rule of thumb is if you bring an animal to the show that's not for sale, you're going to talk to 100 people that weekend. They're going to try to negotiate a sale on that animal. And there's not a problem with that because sometimes they throw a number out there that you can't live without. But I find taking not for sale animals to the show is kind of a waste of time. There are some species, like with some corn snakes I work with, I'll bring the adults out because there's such a color progression from baby to adult that people don't understand how nice the animal is going to be because they look like shit as babies. As adults, they're absolutely screamers. So I'll bring adults out for that. But, you know, I don't see any reason to stress out an animal with all that travel and everything else involved in the shows if it's not for sale.
Can I, you have a couple friends in the live chats. Can I shout them out real quick?
Yeah, do it up.
All right, the homie William. Look at this super chat right here. Shout out to the homie William. Philippek. Did I say that? I always want to call him Philippe, but it's not. It's Philippek, right?
Well, if you call him Philippe, that'd be cool. I don't think he'd be mad about it. But, you know, I brought up William a little earlier because, you know, he was helping out with me after Bennett passed. You know, he was helping with the big constrictors because he's a man. Have you ever met William in person?
Dude, yeah, he's a man. Dude, that's my boy, bro. He's fucking a beast. He's a beast, bro. He's a truck.
No better guy for the job when it comes to big constrictors.
Yeah. Yep, 100%. Shout out to that. Thank you so much for that super chat, William. That really means a lot, man. And then you have this fucking turd right here. This girl's something else. Man. She is something else. What a relationship you two have, man. I gotta say, you guys make quite the duo.
Yeah, no, you know what? Again, I've been very fortunate to be around a lot of good people. You know, I've weaned out some bad ones, but I'm respectful to everybody, even if I don't like you. And I want everyone to remember that when I talk to you, I might not like you, but I'm going to treat you real nice. So keep that in the back of your head. But no, yeah, like, you know, Megan, again, somebody who is amazing at what she does, keyed in on a species, did it to the best of her abilities. And in all honesty, not to hate on anybody else, I don't know if there's anybody other than maybe Andy that has more experience with green anacondas in the industry, even in the world market. The reality is anacondas were not really bred heavily years ago because they were being imported for $100 a piece and sold for 200. So not a lot of people saw the worth in a species that females take upwards of 8 to 10 years to get to breeding size. So really, anacondas, the Lacey Act created a community and a market for anacondas. You know, the few people that were actually working for them, the price on them went up overnight, which made investors want to work with these species. When you look at an animal that you're going to make $200 on that's going to maybe produce 6 or 8 babies after you raise her up for 8 years, you don't see it worth it unless there's a passion there. Now that anacondas are $1,200 to $1,500 a piece for greens, now there is an investment level there for people. And now that there's mutations being mixed in there, that also creates a investment level for the industry. So like I said, certain species didn't take off because, I hate to say it, the price point and how many of them were being imported at the time. But, you know, even a lot of Madagascar species, they'll bring things in from Madagascar for a little bit and then they'll cut it off forever. And when they're coming in cheap. And then all of a sudden they get cut off and that last batch is like triple the price. And now you got people wanting to work with them because the value went up.
Right. Now, I mean, with your experience of seeing, and no matter what the species is, but the values that could just be so inconsistent, right? Like something could be priced one year, the next year it could go either up or down. And I've noticed things go up and down. But, you know, you see something like the Boland's python, right? Which Boland's pythons were not 8K, you know, 10 years ago, from what I understand, right? And now they're if you're lucky.
I was offered a Boland's python female in 2004 for $800, and I said no. Now here's the thing. I probably would have killed it because I would have kept it like every other python in my collection. I would have kept it too hot. I wouldn't have done my homework back then. I was one of those guys that came in the hobby and saw things he liked and bought it, and really got a hodgepodge of a bunch of different species that narrowed it down to what I really wanted to work with. And then I started producing animals. So not that I'm saying that I would have killed it on purpose, but in all honesty, I would have kept it very similar to other python species. And in the end, I probably could have lost the animal.
But $800 in 2004. Now we're talking, like I said, if you know somebody, and if you're lucky, $8K. You know what I'm saying? Do you think that's bad for the hobby, for a species to have such a jumping price point? I mean, do you feel like something like that is going to backfire on us at some point, or what do you think of price jumps like that?
Well, the problem is with anything like that, when you're looking at the economic side of it, there's a million different factors. Now, you're talking about a price point of $10,000 on an animal because, if you go out looking for a bones, unless you know somebody, you're probably looking at 10. Now, you're also talking a species that, can you on one hand or on two hands tell me how many people have bred them successfully? Maybe, so the reality is they're not readily available. Now, there are captive bred ones coming in from the wild, and those are being made available. And honestly, most of the animals you're seeing for sale are captive hatched, in the wild, at farms. So, and those animals are still going for that price point because, a buddy of mine used to say that a green tree python in your collection was kind of like the money symbol of your collection. Like that animal that was either one of those, what is that? Is it the yellow trees, or not yellow trees, the lemons, the lemon line.
Yeah, the lemon line.
So, again, very unique, hard to come by. Some of those really cool calico projects, that was look how fucking cool I am and look what I put into this animal. And I think there's something there with the Bolins. That black snakes in the hobby sell very well. IMG boas sell like crazy. Any mutation that's a solid black animal in any snake typically sells very well. Now you have this naturally occurring black snake with these beautiful whites on it. I mean, fuck, man. Had to pick this up this weekend. Couldn't live without this fucking print, buddy. But again, just such a unique animal, and that iridescence is really what does it for people. Same thing why people like rainbow bows, that iridescence on their sides. I just think that's one of those animals that it's more for the collector, and also everybody loves to do something they're told they can't do. You got a million people in this hobby telling you it's impossible to breed Bolins, and then you got a million people saying, fuck you, I bet you I can find a way. And the more people that get into it, we're going to find more people that are going to find a way. Hans over in Germany, I want to say he's consecutively bred them for 2 or 3 years in a row now. And he's doing that all with cracking windows open, dropping the temperature down to 50, just making it as natural as possible. Kind of what I brought up earlier, with boa breeding, people are going based on old literature on animals that are 7 or 8 or 10 generations captive bred. Now, with a species like a Bolins, you do want to go old literature because you do need to mimic what's going on in the wild if you're going to be successful breeding them in captivity. Now, when we get a few more generations in, they might become more easy, but for what we have right now, you got to go by the books.
And I agree to that. And I feel like, a lot of failure that people had with certain projects back in the day were just going off of what they only were told to do instead of just kind of, going with their gut instinct, which I feel, with me, for instance, I'm not saying I'm figuring shit out, but I always was confused about how people would, especially a chondro clutch, which, I'm not good at hatching chondro clutches, but at the end of the day, I do feel like having something at one temperature throughout the whole period with no fluctuations, no nothing, I don't feel like that's natural at all. And I almost feel like almost with any clutch, there has to be at least a little bit of airflow at some point, airing it out or something. But what do you think?
You know what? I don't really have a right answer on that because, I do work with some challenging species like Woma pythons where we know X amount of Woma eggs could go bad. Right. Ball python eggs, man, I mean, they're pretty bulletproof. You can incubate them 15 different ways. It just seems like you'd have to really fuck up and dry them out to fail at them. But, like you said, here's the cool thing about what you have going on. If you were having trouble breeding your carpet or anything, all you have to do is bring on a guest, somebody who knows way more than you, and pick his brain for 3 hours. That is the best thing about a podcast, man.
Dude, that's why, Dave, my mentality from the beginning, because I got a lot of shit from people telling me, the way I am and I smoke, but I was like, I'm not doing this for fucking you. I'm doing this for me. Like, even if nobody really jumped on this train or this fucking wave that I built, I would still be doing this. As long as the guests like me and the guests want to come on my show, that's all I need. And I fucking hoard all this information. That's a good call out. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly why I wanted to do this. So I could just get fucking information. Whatever helps me helps other people too, and I'm not good at helping other people. My whole life I've never cared, but now I'm glad I can help others. That's awesome.
That's good. Yeah, man. Too, we did our podcast together. It had to be like 2.5, 3 years ago at least. Well, maybe like 2.5 years ago. I'm horrible at time. You know the timeline better than me based on life. But long story short, after we did it, Benjamin and Ryan reached out to me. They're like, man, that was a good time. Let's do a podcast. I couldn't have been happier to do it, because you know what that did? That gave me an excuse to pick guests that knew more about something that I didn't know about. And I learned a fuck ton from just asking them basic questions like, what if I was at the bar at TINLEY? So it gave me a weekly opportunity to focus on a new species and just learn as much as I could. One thing I always tell people is it's a good thing to know a little bit about everything, especially when you do a lot of shows, because every once in a while there's that diamond in the rough you wouldn't even know was worth anything that might be on somebody's table that's completely devalued. In 2000, now this is when I was back in Buffalo, in 2002 or 2003, a guy put up a boa litter in the newspaper. And I'm a boa guy, so I went running over to look at these fucking boas. I walk in this guy's house. He's got 55-gallon tanks everywhere. This one has 10 ball pythons in it. This one has candy cane corn snakes in it. And then we get to his room, and he's got a 40-gallon with a whole litter of boas in it. And I'm literally taking these boas, and I'm fucking looking at every scale, and I'm looking at their heads, and I just want to find something that shouldn't be there. And then I'm leaving his place, and he's like, hey, do you want to buy these ball pythons? And he offered me all these big female ball pythons for $40 a piece. But then he said, if you want this one right here, it's going to cost you $60. The one that he offered me for $60 was a calico ball python, female, around 3,000 grams, back when there wasn't a calico ball python. Whoa. But because I didn't know shit about ball pythons, didn't care about ball pythons, didn't even know what the market with ball pythons were, I said, no, I don't want that. And those $40 females he offered me, if I would have sold those on Fawn or King Snake back then, normal ball python females back in the early 2000s were selling for $500 to $1,000 a piece.
$1 a gram.
Right? Yep, $1 a gram. And that went that way for mutations after a little while. But there's always these crazy fluctuations. And, it's not that here's the thing. Some people can create a market. Some people get lucky and work with a species or a mutation for years, and suddenly there is a market. Blue-tongue skinks are a good example. Blue-tongue skinks were $80 a piece for the first 6 years I worked with them. Then Brian BARCZYK started talking about them on snake bites. Joe Ball over in Australia was making all these crazy mutations, and everybody wanted them, and the price shot up to $450. And that was practically overnight. One thing that I said about COVID was, any species that did not have an inflation on price prior to COVID, during COVID, inflated in price. Maybe an awful thing to say, but during COVID, it was not a buyer's market, it was a seller's market. There were a lot of people buying, but if you bought during that 2-year period, you had to buy at a premium on almost every species.
You got taxed.
Yeah, honestly, big time, because the demand, everything in this industry is supply and demand. Justin takes a gene, talks about it in a video, something that nobody even thought to work with. The guy puts the time in and then shows you what you can do with it. What happens the next day or within 5 minutes of that video? Everyone jumps on Morph Market. They buy up every last one you can. My Facebook page this week has been loaded up with lace everything. Before that, it was red stripe. Before that, it was redhead and numerous other genes, because again, Justin's smart. There's been a lot of ball python breeders before him, and I'm not going to take away from any of us or any of them.
Right.
But where certain species, I felt like there was an art form involved in it. I always joked around ball python breeders, especially when we were getting new genes all the time. We would throw shit at the wall and see what stuck. And we did a lot of experimenting. We found a lot of ways to make really ugly ball pythons. But the funny thing is, 5 years ago, a spinner calico pastel lesser was $2,500.
Right.
Now they're $350, $400 if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Exactly. The industry is ever changing. And if I can give any advice to anybody, and it's really what set Justin apart from anybody else, Justin didn't chase trends. Justin is a trendsetter.
He's a wave. I'm telling you. Yes.
Yeah. He found things and did things. The reality is the ingredients that he works with, we've had these ingredients. The clown ball python's been around since 1999 when Tracy Barker brought it in the country. Like, this is nothing new. Fuck, I think the clown came in the country before 99, in all honesty. But what he did, and this is another thing, like, you know, we'll see what people do with the Codom, like the Campfire. Now, I look at the Campfire and I say, that's awesome. I like what it is. Other people look at it and they'll key in on something. And I think this is where Justin sets himself apart. He'll key in on a color or something else, and he can see it and what he's going to do with it. And, you know, he found, you know, I remember Justin's coming up in the industry, you know, the first animal that really got a lot of attention from him, in my opinion, was when he did the leopard clowns. He did the leopard clowns and everybody went fucking nuts about it because back then, man, we fucking loved blade clown everything. It had to be a blade clown. If it wasn't a blade clown, nobody wanted to buy it. Now, keep blade clown the fuck out of everything, everyone says. Nobody wants blade clown anymore. But 8 years ago, that's all everyone wanted was a blade clown. And this is my point of chasing the trends. Be a trendsetter. Don't chase the trends. There's money in chasing trends. Sometimes it costs you a little more money because it's already popular, but
This trend.
yeah. Here's the thing, and you know, everything I say, I mean this in a positive way. Justin has a recipe, and I've talked to him about his recipe. His recipe is spot nose, red stripe, black pastel, and yellow belly. He'll put those 4 genes into any new gene he gets, and if he makes something he likes, he's going to put the time in. If they don't complement those 4 genes, he moves away. We have the Campfire, calico, inchy, cinnamon. That should be my recipe. That was something we were known for. I should be making more Campfire combos because that was a really good recipe to bring out orange in an animal that we typically wouldn't see that kind of orange outside of the Orange Dream project.
Right.
So, yes. And again, I don't even fucking remember the question. What are we talking? Economy. We're talking prices. Why this? Why that?
I mean, yes. I mean, we're talking, the prices. But I also want to, you know, clarify real quick as far as the market itself, right? I mean, you got to understand, Dave, if it's one thing that's blowing up, and you know this for sure, is the ball python market, the community itself. Like that's kind of like the newest brand you see on Instagram nowadays. It's another ball python breeder, right? But I mean, what moves would you make in a just coming into ball python? No matter what your income is, you know, I mean, do you really feel like it's smart coming into a ball python game with no experience, dumping over 100K right off the bat, or do you feel like that's something you could get away with nowadays? Or I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, honestly, again, there's a lot of variables in that. You know, let's say you rolled into the industry 7 years ago when scales ball pythons were everything that everybody ever wanted, and you go and invest a lot of money into that project. Now, the reality is there's still money in it, and people are still doing well with it. But you know, there's certain projects that just didn't do well, and I hate to say it, that is one that didn't do well. Now, they do produce good animals. You got to put a lot of time into them. But if an investor came in the industry when that project was hot, he might not have done well because he might have came in and spent 70K on that first male and then watched that price point crash down to, I don't know, $300-400 within 6-7 years. You know, if somebody would have came into the industry when bananas were selling for $15,000 and spent a lot of money on a banana male, and then 2 years later they were selling for $1,000 tops. Desert ball python's another good example. There were breeders that based their entire collection around a desert ball python, put a lot of money into it, made a lot of combos, not knowing the females couldn't lay eggs, and then realized their investment was worth nothing after it was worth tens of thousands of dollars days beforehand. And what are they going to do? Completely start over again? It's going to burn them the fuck out. So the reality is, a lot of that depended on when certain people came in the hobby and what they decided to work with. But, you know, Miguel came in. There was a lot of guys before Miguel, but Miguel came in. He bought from the right people, the right projects, was able to read trends, got in on some stuff that Justin was working with and did really well for himself. But then, there's other people that came in the hobby, not to bring up names, but, Gabriel. Gabriel came with a lot of money, a lot of love for the hobby. And without knowing, honestly, I think us losing Ben in the hobby is what took his love out of it. Ben was Gabriel's mentor. Ben talked to him always. And I think without Ben, what he loved about the hobby, he lost a little bit there. And I think that changed everything he did forward. So really, when it comes to an investor coming in, I'm not saying don't chase the trends. You're not going to come in and reinvent the wheel overnight when you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You got to tackle some stuff that people are already doing that you're going to do well with. But I do think after a while, if you continually chase the trends, it's just going to really hurt your wallet. You're going to always be over investing in projects compared to, again, finding your own way.
You're never going to be happy. I'm telling you.
You have to know, man, because here's the thing. If I had shot a Pompeii tomorrow, I'd be happy as fuck. I got the ingredients, but I'm not there yet. And it might be 2-3 years. I'm sure I'm going to see a DG Pompeii before I can get close to making a Pompeii. But, like I said, you kind of take it where you want to go with it. There's 250 to 300 ball python genes out there. You can do anything. All you got to do is find 3 genes that make sense together that maybe somebody else wouldn't think about doing, and you take them wherever you want to take them.
I mean, if you want to go back to, being trendsetter, and I feel like if you have anything that you're really passionate about, you want it to be something, a part of your life, having that trendsetter mentality was what gives you the longevity in doing what you're doing. And to go back to Miguel, I feel like, at least from what I was experiencing, Miguel was that first guy who not only said, I don't give a fuck what you guys have to say, I'm going to invest in what I want to invest, but he implemented his life onto YouTube and had other things that contributed to what he's successful doing now, which is selling ball pythons. The guy just didn't sit back and just grow a fucking ball python page and just wait for that to happen. Like he did collaborations. He brought a lot of attention to what he was doing and then basically started his own branch on the huge ball python tree from there. So, I mean, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to follow up with that. You're right. And that's one unique new thing about the hobby with social media doing what it's doing is some of these motherfuckers that never even produced a clutch of ball pythons are more popular than me and have more followers right now because they put the time in. JP up in Canada, man, he was a hustler. He was on Instagram. He was showing off what he was picking up. He was getting people excited about him building his collection. People got to watch him build his collection. Same thing with Miguel. There was a personal experience where people got to watch him build and be a part of it. And Brittany Gobble did a lot of social media stuff. She was posting stuff before she ever produced an animal, but she gained a following based on the excitement that she had. God, man, I hate that I can't remember his name right now. This is before your time, but the guy that helped out Nerd back in the day with videos.
Oh, Jason.
Raffy. Raffy's. So, and Raffy helped out Justin a little bit for a while there too, with producing some of his videos, right around the time of like the leopard and Mojave GHI ball python, I want to say, or GHI clown. Raffy said something very unique to me that always stood out, and I always remember and I always repeat it. I always asked him why Nerd's videos were so popular when he got involved, and I asked him why Justin's videos really seemed to pick up when he got involved. I was like, what's the magic, buddy? And he said it just like this. When you are by yourself on a camera talking about your animals, it doesn't really draw a viewer in. But when you have somebody next to you that's oohing and eyeing and showing a genuine interest in what you're doing, it gives you a little more of a connection to the viewership. So compared to being a conceited asshole who just wants to hear himself talk, having somebody else there with you actually does a lot for your YouTube presence.
Very true. You gotta say, a lot of things that I do on my own vlog is I'm talking behind the camera, and that can only go so far. It's a lot different when you have somebody else there next to you and someone else for people to look at. It's very true, man. That's a crucial one for sure. Because Miguel does that a lot too. He's always done that. He's always had somebody else on his show, or his wife or somebody else a part of it, which I feel helped him out a lot as well. So that's a huge plug right there, man, for sure.
No, I think that's some of the best advice I ever got from making YouTube videos. All these YouTube videos I've never made, but I would like to start eventually. This all comes down to me talking time management, buddy. But mind if I talk a little bit about the name change and the branding?
Hold on, before we do that, because this is going to be big. I'm not respecting the likes right now compared to how many people are watching. And my boy's like literally about to tap into something amazing. His jacket is off the hook. Can we please get the likes up for my man Dave Levinson, please, before I sent fucking William out on you guys? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. We don't have to force my love on people, buddy. It's okay. Like I said, trends come and go, man. I just might not be popular anymore. I might be so last week, it's not even funny.
You're not last week. You're current. Anything on this fucking episode becomes current, so you're good. You're in a good place right now. The likes are going the fuck up. We're over 100 now. Good job. So, yeah, I knew it. Thank you.
Okay, pity likes. I dig that, man. This sounds like my dating life.
All right, let's talk about the brand change. What is going on behind all this? I got to hear it.
All right, so the transition from an old name to a new name. Now, here's the reality. The old name had meaning, man. The idea was with RL Exotics, and there was a few different reasons for this, Rennick Levinson. It was the handoff of a collection in a sense. Wow. So I always liked that. But from a marketing standpoint, I don't know. RL never really fit my personality. There's a greater meaning there. And don't get me wrong, there will never be a day where we don't talk about what Ben's contributions are or forget about what he brought to the hobby. He's definitely somebody I'd like to believe everyone's always going to be remembering. And on our end, between things we're going to have up at the shop, giving him credit for projects, that's never going to end on our end. But for my personality and everything else, it was just such a plain Jane name. It didn't make any sense for the brand. I do think that your brand should reflect you a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. I kept the rainbows off the logo. I kept it pretty Gucci. I kept you in mind when it got designed. But I loved back in the day watching snake bite videos on my lunch break, and all these mutations and combinations were referred to as paint jobs. I fucking loved calling them paint jobs. And because of that, I wanted to start something with the theme of paint jobs. So inevitably, I'm afraid to say, because I haven't actually made the YouTube station yet, and someone's going to go fucking make it and then steal it from me. Actually, you're pretty smart. I'm going to need you to make me a YouTube page now while I do this so somebody doesn't steal it from me. But, just like how Justin has Headflix, I thought it'd be cool to do a series of videos called Paint Jobs, discussing mutations, what they've been in the industry, same thing that he does on a weekly basis. And with the whole idea of paint jobs, custom scales came up, kind of going with that car theme. Now, I'm not a car guy by any means, but it just all kind of worked. And I felt like there was more I could do with it with marketing. And, again, where it's kind of weird when someone changes their company name, Justin did it, so now anyone can do it. In that moment when he did it, I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it now, because it won't get questioned. There's some people in the past that have changed their company name because they're trying to get away from maybe a bad reputation. I know people that have like their fifth company because they're so fucking shitty. But they keep on changing it so people don't look them up and find out they're dog shit people making dog shit animals.
Right.
But no, like I said, the RL always had a meaning. And like I said, changing the name doesn't bury all that, or, I'm not so much putting it behind us, but, everything's kind of wrapped up with that. The case is closed, there's no more mysteries, life goes on. Like I said, we're always going to remember the guy, but, now that everything's over, it was, let's brand it for something that fits my personality so it'll show in my marketing.
Well, everything has to evolve at some point in life, and that's all this is. It's evolving, and this is awesome. I mean, at least you're thinking and doing this instead of just sitting on your ass and just riding whatever wave was put into your lap. I feel like this is smart.
No, it's like I said, Adeline and Chris, and I believe Chris's brother helped with the logo. Literally, I did the Vegas show like a month ago. I was driving out to Vegas on a Thursday. I had them whipping up a design as we were going. It all started out with a little snake coming with a nice little ball sack, and then it slowly transformed into what you see now. If you stared long enough, you can still see a dick. So that's really all that matters to me.
Oh my God. And let me ask you this, I know we were just talking about the shirt thing, right? But for anyone out there who's coming into this, let's say like their first or second year into breeding, and they have stock to sell, at what point do you feel like it's important to invest in your marketing and getting your name out there more and actually spending money on it? Like, when do you feel like that's the move?
Well, there's no wrong time. You know, my comment before about the T-shirt thing, it's not like it was a T-shirt with my company on it. It was designs. So that's something a little different. That's like bringing FUBU up from nothing. You know what I mean? Like, if you aren't known in the community in that genre, no one's going to give a fuck about buying your stuff. There you go. Right at it, man. You know what's going on. You want to click on that first one? I don't think it's big enough. I mean, it's probably proportional, but I think you could do better.
I got it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
I'll be honest.
Go through the evolving stages of this?
Yeah, it was a whole process, man. You know, we slowly just got there.
Nice.
Yeah, well, you know, that was me being a little arrogant, but yeah. But no, yeah, it was, you know, it was fun. You know, like I said, I really like Adeline and Chris. You know, definitely two people I'm lucky to have met. You know, we actually, I think we all just had our 2-year anniversary the other day, 1 or 2 year anniversary. But, you know, two people I always look forward to seeing at the shows. You know, I was a big artist in high school, so I always find them really drawn to artists. So, you know, that was something that, you know, I really loved her artwork. You know, Emily Burke was somebody I worked with years ago where I was taking Emily Burke's artwork to shows and selling it. But, you know, I just gravitate towards artists. But as for when it's a good time to start promoting, man, I mean, I'll be honest, stickers, holy fucking stickers, man. Like, I feel like a little kid with all these fucking stickers. If there's anywhere just to start out at this point, when they talk about marketing yourself and not spending a fuck ton of money on t-shirts, maybe somebody doesn't want, stickers, buddy. Stickers and business cards until you produce an animal is just fine.
And you know, as much as because like, goddamn that, like, you know, there was a point where everyone was asking me, like, I'm talking about, I would go to my DMs and be filled asking if I want a sticker trade. Not if I want stickers, but do I have anything to give them back? And I'm like, I don't want any fucking stickers. I am good. And I started like making that really, really known on my podcast. No offense, but then at the end of the day, I'd see how like that's such an easy way for people to be like, hey, rep me, I'll rep you. Let me put it on your incubator. And then certain people blow up and they still see that sticker. And it you know, like, and I will say, shout out to people like Billy from Mutation Creation, who created a goddamn shrine of all the stickers that he got. He has like literally 1 million stickers, and that makes people feel good. So, I mean, I will say I'm happy for the sticker trend. Good. I'm happy for you guys.
I mean, it's definitely what's going on now, and I'm sure something's going to change. I mean, shit, it was lanyards for a while there. I mean, everything was lanyards in the hobby. Every big breeder had a lanyard. Right. Now I can't get a fucking lanyard well, you know, US Arcs got the lanyards, yes, and a few other people do, but, you know, everything comes in trends. And right now we're in the sticker trend. I don't know what's next. Someone's going to set a new trend. When it happens, it's going to happen. Maybe it's tattoos. You want some semi-permanent tattoos, buddy? Because I'll make you one right now.
Okay, tattoos. You treat real tattoos like if they're fucking washable tattoos. Apparently, I mean, you have a fucking goddamn Chad Holker on your chest, which, goddamn. Let's take a look. I mean, we all know we had Chad Holker on the episode. Shout out to the homie Chad, but that is a real tattoo of the homie Chad Holker, which was his old logo.
Just so you can see that little twinkle in his eye. Can you even see the twinkle? Oh, there it is.
That is real pain.
Here's the thing, man. No regrets. Don't be a pussy. Like, I'll be straight. The very first tattoo I ever got was the biceps, and that was a joke. And then it was a tramp stamp. And for the longest time in the industry, I wasn't Mustache Dave. I was Tramp Stamp Dave. You needed Dave, you found Tramp Stamp Dave, and he'd find you. You know, the tattoo thing, you know, I think everything really comes down to a personality, man. I just like making people smile. And I'm going to keep on getting stupid tattoos if it keeps on making people smile.
Right. And honestly, if you want to talk about smiles, man, ear to ear, bro. And you know, that's, if you want to, dude, Dave, I just want to say thank you. When I know you're at a show, I do get excited to go to those shows and just see you. Like, you know, and there's been times where I've rolled up on you and you're just setting up, and knowing that you're at that show, I know it's going to be a good show just because of the vibe that you always bring. So I got to say, I appreciate you giving me that vibe every time I'm around you, man. Thank you. It's awesome. It's priceless. I got to say.
No, it's appreciated, man. I mean, the vibe's everything. You know, this has been a bit of a cutthroat hobby over the years. You know, it wasn't always as fun as you see now. You know, back in the day when there was just a few guys really producing that high-end stuff, you know, everything, like I said, was a big cutthroat. The way the hobby is now, honestly, everybody's doing so well, making money, going to shows, having fun, that the whole community just seems different. Like, honestly, it is peaking right now, in my opinion. Like, everyone's friendly, everyone's happy. And, you know, too, it's people you have around you. You know, you put me and Chad in a setting, man, it's going to get weird. In the most positive way you could imagine. It's just part of what it is. And, you know, when I roll up to a show and I see Chad there, man, bump, 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 man, the heart starts pounding. I'm ready to go. It's going to be a good weekend. I know it every fucking time.
Listen, Chad, I'm not trying to step on your toes here. I'm just saying this guy is hot. He's amazing. You're a lucky guy, Chad.
Hey, we're lucky guys, buddy. We're lucky guys. Yeah.
Dude, okay, if it's one thing I always like preach on this goddamn podcast is like, you know, mentorship is huge. Like, especially if you're new into this, getting somebody who could really look after you and really look after your best interests on your growth is huge, right? But like, it's not always easy. And, you know, going back to you being friends with Ben, we haven't talked about our boy Forrest yet, which we will here in a second. But like, how did you link with a guy like Chad, and what drew you to Chad Holker? And respect to Chad Holker again. Love the guy, but I'm just curious because you guys do have a great relationship. So how did that work?
Honestly, it started with Myrtle Beach. I sold display cases to a good buddy of his named Joe Ellis. Joe Ellis introduced us, and that was it, man. We were hooked. And I want to say that was 2006, maybe 2007-ish. So I was still a little new to the hobby. You know, Chad had been in for a lot longer than me, was a lot more established, had a really great collection back then. But no, just like one of those things that, you know, I think we dipped our toes in the water a little bit, like any new relationship, kind of figured out what was going on. And then I don't know what happened, but overnight, man, just, you know what I'm saying? You know what the problem is when you watch me on these podcasts, and I say the same thing when we used to do ours. You gotta watch it on YouTube. It's all visual stimulants the entire time. Like, if you're just listening to me, it's just not the same. You gotta see the things I'm doing with my fingers. Like, this is all very important to me.
We have 114 people in the live right now, so they're now 116. So they're all seeing your visuals. This is all good.
I'll take it.
Yeah, this is
but,
great.
No, yeah, Chad, just like other people, man, just, you know, lucky to meet him. You know, me and that guy would do anything for each other. You know, we plan shows around each other. We plan outfits around each other. I plan tattoos for the guy. Like, nothing I wouldn't do for Chad. And I got a lot of people in the hobby like that, man.
Can I be honest though, with you and Chad? Do you guys have any kind of like a business relationship or deal prior to you guys becoming homies? Like, was there anything like that maybe bridged you guys? You can be honest. I'm just curious.
He bought a couple display cases off of me. That was it. Nice. Honestly, me and him usually don't do too much animal dealings. He did buy a pastel spot nose puzzle male off me today. Right. But, you know, things, you know, usually when it comes to the business end, you know, we've done a couple breeder loans. I got one of his skinks here that I breed for him every year because he doesn't do much with skinks. And, you know, for the most part, we're just buddies. Like, you know, there's really not a whole lot of business, man. It's just nothing but pleasure.
And this is definitely true too, man. I mean, there's some people out there, you're better off just keeping the business out of the friendship, because not everyone is really good at the business part, obviously, you know, and things can go sour. So you should definitely figure that part out, I feel like, right?
Well, you know, one thing I always tell new people coming in the hobby is unrealistic expectations is what's going to kill you. If you come to this hobby with unrealistic expectations, you could fail. And that's why a lot of partnerships don't work out, because now you have two people with unrealistic expectations or one person with an unrealistic expectation. And when it doesn't go the way it's supposed to, they get drained. You know, it's really easy to come in this hobby and look at the numbers on these display cases and what people are making and just say, oh man, I want that, I'm going to do that. It's a whole nother thing to do that. You know, just because you produce a $5,000 animal, it doesn't mean someone's going to want to buy that from you. And in this industry now, with the amount of people in it, it is a very competitive market. So, you know, you really got to come in and find a way to set yourself apart. And, you know, like some of the new people coming in a few years ago, like I said, JP and Brittany Gobble and Miguel, like, you know, those are all people that understood the importance of a social media presence, and they created that before they produced an animal. And then when they did produce animals, people were hungry to buy it. Like, they had waiting lists for things that other people were making, but they had already created this relationship with their online presence that people wanted to have a animal from them. So, you know, the people you put around you are important. I mean, don't get me wrong, some partnerships do just fine. Some partnerships have gone 20, 30 years in this industry, but, you know, for some new people come in, maybe one guy's got money signs in his eyes and the other guy just fucking loves reptiles. Money sign guy might burn out early and the reptile guy might keep going afterwards. You got to have a passion for what you're doing.
Want to know who my first partnership in this reptile industry was?
Was that
Forrest Fanning, and it had nothing to do with money, and it went great. It was all about the podcast, man. And if I could really tell you why I love you so much, Dave. I'm sorry, Chad. I get it. I'm backing off. But if I could tell you why I look at you the way I do and why I wanted you back on my show so bad is because how much Forrest would talk about you. How much Forrest, back, like I said, I remember the first weekend where we agreed we were going to do the podcast. He had a list of things that I had to do if we were going to do it, right? And while we were doing it, we were coming up with names. And you were definitely number one. He's like, we have to get Dave on. And I remember Forrest wanted you to be a regular. But it was just, I don't know what it was, but it took like maybe 2 months after having the show started to finally get you on the show, which was unfortunately Forrest's very last podcast. We all had the pleasure of being a part of, which like I take that episode to my grave. You have no idea. I'm sure you do. I mean, you have an idea, but I'm just saying, where am I going with this? You inspire me, Dave. Like, you know, like Forrest didn't, you know, we had long conversations mostly about people that inspired him, Rico Wilder, you know, and Marshall Mendez, you, Ben. But like those conversations just stick to me, you know, and I hold those to heart. And somebody I always heard him talk about was you. And I always felt like my closest way to get Forrest back to what I had was having you on here. And this is why I always wanted this so bad, man. And I don't want to get emotional, but I kind of the closest I could get to getting to Forrest of being on this podcast is having you on it. And this is why this really means a lot to me.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, this is not that I was the complete opposite, but the fact that that was his last one that we did together was one of the reasons that kind of pushed me from not wanting to do another one. You know what I mean? Like, there was just something there that, you know, like you said, it brings up a lot of memories about it. And it's not like you ever stop thinking about the guy, regardless coming on a podcast and talking about him. I mean, you know, you lose people, you're going to think about them every single day, even if you're not thinking about them. It just comes with territory. But, you know, like you said with Forrest, you know, Forrest was a good person. You know, after Ben passed away, Forrest was kind of that guy that I started calling a lot. You know, it was, you know, I'd be on a road trip before and I'd call Ben and talk economy stuff. When Ben was gone, it became Forrest. And honestly, what I loved about Forrest the most is, and you saw it in the podcast, we didn't see eye to eye on shit. We disagreed on every fucking topic out there, man. Everything he said, I said, fuck you, you're wrong, I'm right. And that's every conversation we never had. But we loved it. You know, healthy debates. Who doesn't want to have healthy debates with people? One-sided conversations are fucking bullshit, man. I want you to challenge everything I say.
And Forrest wouldn't challenge me. That's the thing. Forrest would just like back. Like I hated that. I heard stories of him going toe-to-toe. Like if he didn't see or feel a certain way that you saw or you guys were on the same page, Forrest would always speak up. I heard about his bitch fits on trips, everything. I heard all about these bad things about Forrest, and I never got to see any of it. Even on the podcast, I would challenge the things he would say, and he'd go, okay, yeah. And he would just like not feed into it. I don't know if he was just tired of it, but yeah, man, I remember hearing these things for sure.
I mean, different relationships with different people, man. You know, you were fairly new to the hobby. You know, you were kind of learning as you go, and maybe he just didn't want to discourage you. You know, take the life out of you on a conversation because, you know, you think you knew something, and then he tells you, no, you're fucking wrong. And that sucks, you know. Anybody new in the hobby, you don't treat them that way. You know, new people come into this, like, with this fucking glimmer in their eye, man. Like, just like a child in a fucking candy store. And then somebody in the hobby finds a way to ruin it for you. And that's the way it usually works. So honestly, I just don't think you want to ruin it for you by debating everything you were saying.
And I agree, man. I feel like that's what the case is because he only encouraged me. I mean, there were times where he, like, especially when we started the podcast, he would tell me, like, you know, because I definitely had this chip on my shoulder, had an attitude. You know, I did have a lot of people coming to me after starting a podcast with Forrest with questions, and I was kind of like a dick to a few people, and I would show them like, who the fuck is this guy asking these questions? And you know, some of these people were important for us, like really, and I just didn't know who they were, you know. There's one of these guys being Casper. I don't know if you know who Casper is from or he's in Amsterdam, but he's in Europe, but really fucking amazing herpetologist, works with scrub, like has mad success with breeding scrubs, basins, you name it. But you know, I was kind of a dick to this Casper guy, and I showed Forrest, and he was like, literally like, yo, you need to stop doing this, or I'm not going to do this podcast with you no more. And I'm like, he's like, you don't know who the fuck this is like the one only time Forrest did like kind of go in on me, which opened my eyes to everything. This was the one time where I was like, yo, you need to stop being a fucking prick to people, which I still am a prick to people, but case by case. Anyways, I don't know. I was like,
needs a slap on the wrist every once in a while, bud. That was just your slap on the wrist.
That was a good one. And I feel like Forrest, because he was always just so good to me, the times where he did want to speak up and get my attention, I listened. I listened to Forrest a lot. And I have a listening problem in general. And when I feel like every time I have that person in my life where I want to listen to him, it's because I really, really respect the living shit out of him, you know? And you're being one of them. Like, you know, the nights we have after shows, hanging out in the lobby, I cherish all those moments, man. 2 a.m., 3 a.m., we're just chilling, talking, looking at each other, fucking, oh God, what's happening? You know, I love those nights. I'll take those nights to my grave. That's probably why I mainly love going to shows, because of nights like that. I mean,
no, I agree. And yeah, like you said with Forrest, just you know, Forrest was ever changing in the hobby with his interest and everything else. You know, I met Forrest years ago, probably like 15 years ago, I want to say, in Carolinas, because he was with the Carolina guys I was hanging out with. You know, my buddy Ted Williams was doing rodent stuff, and, you know, they were both kind of feeding off each other on that. I know Forrest was teaching him stuff. I know Ted was teaching him stuff early on. And because I was already in that clique, that's how I met Forrest. Now, don't get me wrong. There were some years there that me and Forrest weren't like super tight, didn't talk all the time. But, you know, we saw each other. We were always very respectful. Same thing with, of course, me and Dez. But then I don't know what happened, man, but there was just one day where me and that motherfucker just started talking, and then we never stopped talking. Moving forward, I started visiting him at his place every once in a while when I could. He was helping me out. I was helping him out. It was just good. But before that, it was an on and off relationship. And now, like you said, missed the fuck out of the guy. You know, he was my go-to guy to call because he always answered the phone, and then I didn't have anybody to call anymore.
Yeah, you can always call me, buddy.
Oh, I'll call you every once in a while. Don't you worry. I'm on the road nonstop, buddy. I'm 14 straight weekends on the road right now.
I mean, to go back to one thing I loved about Forrest, which is something I do need sometimes, because I do kind of get my head in the clouds, especially when I first started in this. And I was, you know, Forrest put a lot of his interests in me, like, you know, with the chondros, emeralds, basically whatever Forrest was working with, I seem to be working with now. It's crazy, and I'm obsessed with it. But he like kind of got me into a position where I was able to get all these species into my collection, which I had zero experience with. We're not talking ball pythons here. We're talking things that do need serious maintenance, right? And things started crashing on me, and I would just have these fucking realistic conversations with Forrest, who is hearing me bitch about a 500 snake dying, but he just had $12,000 worth of snakes die. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he would just tell me, you know, about Nido, about crypto, and all these realizations of things that are probably are going to happen once I bring them in. The first thing he said when he came into my trap, he walked in, he says, everything in here has Nido. I was like, what? I was like, why would you say that? He's like, I'm just telling you, man, everything has Nido. And I was like, fuck. He's like, when's the last time you had mites? I'm like, why are you asking me this? I was like, what a dick. I thought he was going to be like, wow, this is, you know, he did admire it, but like, he was like, you know, telling me to use Prevenamide, and I'm like, I don't have any mites. He's like, yeah, but it's better than the Reptile spray, and like, you know, going to work, you know, straight going to work on it. But he was a lot of times right, if not all the time, you know, and he prepared me for shit that happened to me, and it was like, I'm thankful for it.
No, I mean, that is one things in the hobby that I always tell people coming in is the sexy part of the hobby is the animals, but you got to know about the things that can go wrong. Like, you got to know about diseases. You got to know about mites. People don't try to learn anything in this hobby until something goes wrong. Nobody's ever prepared until something hits the fan.
True. Facts.
Yeah, because, again, you know, when you come in, you know, you're starry-eyed. You're looking at these beautiful colors, these unique species. Like, you don't pop out your phone and Google what disease can kill a carpet python. you Google, what colors can I get a carpet python in? Like, and that's when you get in the hobby. And then again, something goes wrong, and then you start learning. If you're in this hobby long enough, something's going to go wrong. If anybody in this hobby tells you they never had mites, they're a fucking liar. Everybody's had mites at least once. But you learn as you go, and then you learn how not to make that mistake ever again.
And more importantly, like, you learn how to deal with it if it happens, because things will happen at some point, especially if you're adding shit and you're continuously wanting to get into other projects, taking over people's stuff. Like, you're bound to run into something. It's going to happen at some point. I don't give a fuck what you say. It's going to happen.
You know, that is one of the things that's a burnout for people first getting in the hobby is they run and they want instant gratification and they buy adult animals. And a lot of times when you're buying adult animals, you're buying somebody else's problem that is now your problem. So now, yes, waiting 2 years, 3 years for your animals to be up to breeding size is agonizing pain when you just want to be part of this. But if you're coming into the hobby, in my opinion, start out with small animals, raise them up yourself. You know what you got going on. You know how they were raised. You know everything about your animal. Going out and buying a big ball python at a show because you want eggs in 4 months, don't get wrong. It does work out. I've got adults in and they have laid eggs and everything's been perfect. But I've also got adults in that never made it out of quarantine because they always had issues.
Right. Now,
So,
I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, these things that happen to people, I feel like you should almost want it to happen to you. That way you have this shit down and you could be prepared for it instead of, you know, running away from the issue or try to hype that it happened. You know, like, that's one thing I don't care about talking about on this podcast is all the times I've had mites, all the times I've had animals die. I'm not scared to talk about it because it's happened and it's real life. That's where I'm at. Not to say that I'm anywhere. I'm just saying, like, I have the confidence I have behind everything I do based off my failures. And I feel like you should be looking for failures getting into a hobby like this. The quicker you do that, the quicker you understand what the fuck had happened, if that makes sense.
no, here's the deal. I'm not going to lie about it. I bought 3 rosy boas. They got delivered to the show I was at this weekend. I cracked the box open. First thing I saw was a mite on one of the albinos. So I'm like, fuck my life. So I've got a laundry room with a quarantine rack in the house. It's empty right now. Right. I retreated it. I'm going to hit the animals with Frontline. I'm going to put them in there where they are right now. I'm going to treat them a couple more times. In a couple months, everything's good. I'm going to put them into the collection. But again, assuming something's perfect is stupid. People make mistakes. Maybe the person that sold to me didn't realize there was a problem, but I bought a problem essentially. I'm not going to bitch about it. I can take care of it. Everything will be fine. And the animals will be just fine. But fuck, man, things happen. You know, if you're going to pick up new animals, expect something to possibly be going wrong.
And the biggest reason behind understanding this is so you don't have to throw a big ass fit and fucking lose your mind and really create. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's something that's happening from someone where you feel like it's intentional or he has a reputation of doing something like that, then just simply don't buy from the person. Why is it hard just not to buy from the person and just keep it moving? Just be like, okay, I'll buy that certain morph somewhere else. Someone else has to be working with it, unless we're talking about something ridiculously rare. I mean, I don't know, like, but why is it so hard for people just to just keep it moving? Just, you know, it's like, don't go to that fucking taco shop where you found a fucking pube in your burrito. Like, I'm not going back. I'm good. I'll keep it moving. Like, well, it's that easy.
Did that really stop you though?
Yes, it did. 110%. It wasn't a taco shop. You want to hear the story? It was fucked up. So me and my dad, and this is a fact, me and my dad have, we always have this spot where we like to eat. Like we have like our, like we call it secret spots. We don't tell my sisters or my mom. We just go there and we eat and we pig out. So me and my dad had this, you know what a roach coach is? Have you ever heard of roach coach?
Yeah.
Roach coacher is basically like those big RVs that are like a taco stand, like it's like food truck, like a food truck, right? Okay. So yeah, right. But it was like on wheels. Like, you know, they drove over the border, they set up, and it was right here by my grandma and grandpa's house. Anyway, so we went to this spot continuously, weekly for about 2 years. And then the last time I was there, I rolled up, I get my typical order, and I'm fucking baked. I always get purposely baked before this, obviously. It only makes sense. So I get down, I take a bite out of my fish taco, and I could just feel something that's not a part of the taco, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? So I don't open my mouth. I pull, and you just see this black string. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm pulling, and then it goes bing, like it curls. After it goes out, and it touches my lip. And I fucking lost it. Like everyone turned and looked, but I was so mad. The cooks came out. They were like, "What is happening?" And my dad, I was like, I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to fucking talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. They treated me like family, and after that, I cut them all off, bro. It was over after that. Done. Benito. And my dad was like trying to calm me down. I was like, "I'll see you in the car," and it never went back ever again after that. It was over. That was that. So
I'll be honest, if it was a good taco, it probably wouldn't stop me.
it was bro. These were the best dollar fish tacos you could get in San Diego at that time.
You know what's this is really pathetic, but you know, I used to drive to Pomona from Buffalo, New York, and you know what the first thing I ate every time I got there?
What?
Del Taco fish tacos. Like what? I was fucking obsessed with these dollar fish tacos at Del Taco out there, man. I fucking love them. If I see a Del Taco when I'm on the road, I still get those to this day.
So you're vouching by these fish. I have a Del Taco that's right over the hill, and that sounds delicious. Are you sure these are bomb?
Well, I mean, they cost $1. It's the best dollar you'll ever spend.
Oh man, have you ever had any bad experiences, Del Taco? Del Taco's always smacked for me. It's always been a good experience at Del Taco.
No, but you know, I'll be honest. Bad experiences don't stop me in life, man. You know, I just move on, just keep fucking going. It takes a lot to really put me off on something. I'm not going to get into details and gross people out, but if you know me personally and seen the kind of things I've done with food and where they've been, and I'm not going to get into it, but you know what's up.
I know what's up for sure. Speaking of knowing what's up, one of the biggest, you know, I don't want to say it's as talked about, but there was definitely a time and place about a month ago, 2 months ago, where everyone was rallying for U.S. ARC, and you know, this legislation and you know the Lacey Act and all that. I'm sure you've had experience with this kind of threat towards the hobby since you've been in it. Am I correct, or?
Oh, no, you're spot on. I was very lucky to be living in Charlotte, North Carolina when US ARC started down there. So Andrew Wyatt, Mac Robinette, Warren Booth. There was a couple other people involved. I'll remember their name as we go, but literally at the end of every single Repticon, no matter how small the show, Limey would put on an auction for everybody for money for US ARC. And you had guys like Jeff Ronnie donating boa constrictors. You had Tracy Barker donating animals from BPI. Like legit people in the industry that understood the threat were donating animals, and these auctions were not doing that great. You know, the early days, it was, you know, I remember Andrew White got in front of everybody, and, you know, X amount of people in the room were Burmese python guys, and he's all like, "We're going to lose the berms." And they're all like, "What the fuck do you mean we're going to lose the berms? What are we fighting for?" And he's like, "Well, we're fighting for everything else, but we're probably going to have to lose the berms." And that was it early on. And then we lost the berms, in a sense, for a little while. I mean, we lost anacondas, retics, and berms for a little while in the hobby. You couldn't travel over state lines legally with those animals. I remember when it first happened and the Lacey Act was getting ready to go into effect, a lot of big constrictor breeders ran down to Texas because their biggest market was in Texas. But then they all fucking went there and they flooded their market and they fucked themselves. But there were certain people that stuck it out in their state, and an albino Burmese python went from $125 to $250 to $450, depending on what state you lived in, and if you had any competition to sell that animal. So in some ways, the Lacey Act helped certain breeders, small ones, but it really hurt the big one when that went into effect. Now, when everything was said and done, we got all those back and we were able to travel over state lines. But you know, I've got old vivarium magazines over here. We're back in the 90s, like I think 94, 95. There's like a little thing in the back that talks about how many people get killed by a horse every year, how many people get killed by a snake, a dog, a cat. And like it was like 1.4, 1.5 people a year were getting killed by snakes. And these discussions were being had because even back in the 90s, the government was trying to regulate and take these animals. So the reality is, as long as there's a hobby, there's always going to be somebody in government trying to take it from us. And that's going to go for anybody in any pet trade. Inevitably, in the end, they want them all. They want to regulate them all. Same thing like with New York. To get rid of puppy mills, now they have it to where you can only buy from pet stores. So that's kind of eliminating the puppy mill thing there. But then also, I think they want it to where you can only get your animals from the SPCA. Well, if you can only get a dog and a cat from the SPCA, that means that thing's coming spayed or neutered. No one's ever going to breed them in 18 years. There's not going to be dogs and cats anymore unless there's something that's government regulated. The Lacey Act, like I said, a lot of good people were involved from day one. They got the ball rolling. It got handed off in a sense, and it's still going strong today. We're always going to need that presence in the industry because the reality is, as soon as we beat it, it's going to come back around again, and it's going to come back around again, and it's never going to. To be honest, I'm just glad I don't live in Florida. Fuck, man. Florida's a motherfucker. Like, Tropicana, I think it's Tropical Reptiles, Tegu breeder. Is it Carlos? No. Fuck, I'm going to feel like an asshole for not remembering his name. The nicest Tegu collection you've ever seen in your entire life. And now he can't even breed his Tegus anymore because he's in Florida. Because really, to breed Tegus, you need to be in Florida, Texas, maybe some of the southern states like Louisiana, Alabama, because they do better outside. With all the lighting and shit you need for the inside, I mean, it's going to cut into a little bit of what you'd make. It's more of a passion project at that point, but we're going to lose Tegus completely in the hobby now because all the breeders are down there and they're going to take that from us. So we're going to lose things as we go. We could try to make little decisions based on our business of like safe things like, in the back of my head, in the end, I think geckos and colubrids will still be standing. I just don't see them going after that. But my biggest fear, and this is me just being dramatic, is what happens when the people writing these laws lump constrictors into one category, and anything that falls into a constrictor category is now illegal. And that would mean ball pythons and anything else. And the reality is with government, that's a possibility. So it's a tough one. Like I said, it's been going on for years, and the reality is in 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be the same fight over and over again. I think the only thing that is a negative is the hobby puts more of an effort in when there's a problem, but when everything's on autopilot, nobody's donating, nobody's doing nearly as much as they are, but when they need to, they are. But the reality is we always need to. Like, you can't just shut it off because there's a new law or because there's no laws coming up. There's always going to be another law coming up, and we need to keep these guys going and funded so when that day comes, they handle it. We had it during COVID where everything happened like rapid fire. And I remember Phil Goss made a comment about the laws that got passed in Alabama, I think on tegus, reticulated pythons, and maybe African softers. Literally, they proposed it, and it passed immediately. We didn't even get a chance to fight it. Like, it was over before it started. And the government's getting smarter to where it used to be they tried to regulate something in all 50 states. They couldn't do that. They couldn't win that fight. But now when there's 50 fights in 50 different states, we can't keep up with it. And even talking to Phil Goss about this, they're going a little bit after like the bird people and some of the rodent breeders and the fish people. Those people don't have representatives. They don't have a U.S. ARC in their hobby like we do. They're new to this. They're panicking right now because they've never had a panic before. I did the Alt Pet Expo down in Nashville, Tennessee this past weekend, and I had a bird lady bring me all these things about the Lacey Act to hand out, and I had another person come by and give me a business card for a lawyer that was also trying to defend the rights for bird breeders. They weren't attacked before, now they're getting attacked, and now they are where we were in the early 2000s. In the end, I think there's going to have to be some kind of collaboration maybe between all hobbies, anybody who's breeding any kind of animal, because in the end, they're going to get the reptiles because they're big and scary. But once they get the big scary one and they set a precedent, they can move on to fish, dogs, cats, and anything else they want. So the reality is, I think for us to beat what is happening in government, we need to be bigger than just fighting it within our community. I think we need to merge communities together that are working with other animals, anybody that breeds any animal in the pet trade, because inevitably they're coming after everybody.
And I don't want to pick on Florida or anything, but it seems like anything that's worse for the hobby as a whole is coming out of Florida. From what I hear, people getting arrested on some serious charges, some big names. I'm not going to say anything, but dude, some like crazy shit popping off in Florida right now.
And you're right. But you got to remember too, like those are the OGs, man. The hobby kind of started in Florida. Anywhere there was somewhere an animal could be imported. So a lot of the founders in the hobby started it down there. Now, I'm always very confused when people get busted over a $20 turtle when there's so many amazing ways to make money in this hobby. But, you know, it seems like a lot of the busts that we see usually have something to do with venomous, illegal shipping, or turtle smuggling. People just can't help themselves not to smuggle turtles, it seems. But you're right. Some of the black guys do come out of there. But, you know, the reality is the hobby wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Florida breeders. So, yes and no, I guess you could say. Like, I guess there's a little bit of a hall pass there. But, you know, there's people fucking up in every state. You know, to throw Florida under the bus, you know, seems a little unfair for those guys.
And I don't want, like I said, I'm not trying to just completely throw them under the bus because I just feel like they are the originators, I feel like, in a sense. And I feel like that's kind of like a hub station for all those kind of people who started that shit. And on top of, you know, that being a climate where a lot of these reptiles could thrive and keep living if they get loose, you know?
Well, and, you know, and again, Florida is a special breed. I don't know if you ever listen to morning radio. They always have that thing. Did it happen in Florida or like Alaska? And they tell you this super bizarre story about some guy drinking 3 cans of Four Loko, breaking into 4 houses, taking a shit on someone's carpet, and falling asleep on a couch. Was it Alaska or was it Florida? I mean, the joke is it's almost always Florida. So I do think it's a special breed down there. So, you know, maybe this just comes with the territory. But, you know, just the problem is animals get released in a lot of different states. There's no doubt about it. My Google feed is like a story a day about a ball python or something found in a park in like Chicago or Nevada or Maine. These places where these animals will not survive. But there's no acting like people don't release their pets. People release their birds. People release their snakes, like cats, dogs. You know, it's just people do it. You know, you can't stop them.
People are shit.
But, you know, my argument has always been, too, with everything is, you know, we're really not a regulated industry. In Europe, there's a lot of regulations based on cage size that you keep your animals in. I mean, fuck, the ham show won't even let you bring a phone or anything in there. They don't want people taking pictures. They're really cautious.
That's crazy.
You know, they're only allowed to have the show for 1 day, and it can only be 6 hours because leaving an animal in a container like that for more than 6 hours is animal abuse. So, you know, maybe there is a little bit of room in this hobby where maybe there is a little bit of give. Maybe there's some regulations. Maybe there's licensing we can do. Australia has license. They have 4 levels for your license. Level 1, you get your basic shit, your knobtails, whatever else. Once you're a level 1 license for X amount of years, you can graduate to level 2. And then after you graduate from level 2, you can graduate to 3 or jump right to 4, being your venomous stuff or your big constrictors. So they actually regulate breeders over there. I mean, I don't know how bad it is over there. I'm sure they put a lot into it. But again, they have something put in place that stops people from making mistakes. I don't really have an answer on what we'd have to do here to fix this problem other than what we're doing already. You know, making people know or letting people know what's happening, you know, why it's wrong, why it's right. I guess my only thing would be just merging with all these other animal breeders and other hobbies, because all it would do is put more money into one bank account to fight for everybody. So, you know, maybe that is something that USARC might consider for the future. You know, maybe they start going to the fish shows and talking to those people. Maybe we start talking to the dog and cat breeders, because again, we're all on the chopping block. They're just going after reptiles first.
Now, what are your thoughts as far as people getting into the hobby and getting inspired of people going the YouTube animal influencer route? You know, you got people, I mean, it's rare that anyone does it right. I'm not going to lie. I mean, majority of people are doing it. It's kind of a joke. I'm not going to lie. But there are some things I don't not have respect for either, you know, but you know, I don't know. I mean, is that going to be something shooting us in the foot at some point, or it already is? I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I've seen certain things come out about this recently, and it has been a hot topic. You know, the tough thing about YouTube is clickbait. I mean, there's probably 1,000 different reptile stations out there, but there's just certain people that do more clickbait stuff, I guess you could say. And that's not me hating anybody's grind. I respect everyone's grind unless you're doing something that's hurting an animal. But, you know, the reality is some of these videos we're putting out there are getting national publicity. Some of them look bad in the general public's eyes, look scary to some people. So it does hurt a little bit. But, you know, one thing that my buddy Winston talked to me about, he's really into politics. And he goes to all these big things, and, you know, I can't say who it was. Maybe it was somebody from JP Morgan, who knows. But he made the comment that the problem is with our fight is we don't have anybody on our side in government. There's no Republican or Democrat. Like, it's not like when a Republican's in office, we're better off. Republicans and Democrats equally hate reptiles. So we don't really have a side fighting for us. So we're never really okay. And not having that side fighting for us could be something that hurts us long term.
So what you're saying is we need.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No. What do we need, man? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was all done right there. I was just.
Oh, I said. So what you're saying is we need Trump, and I was kidding.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to comment on anything. I'm not going to get into anything. Here's the thing. I do politics on a daily basis now. I realize the things we're allowed to talk about, not talk about. I mean, I'll talk a little politics with you, but the reality is, and this is going to break people's hearts. I'm a very simple-minded man. And when Trump ran for president, I just thought, man, wouldn't that be funny? Like, you know, like, well, wouldn't that just be something? And then it happened. And to be honest, you know, I didn't let it bring me down. I was pretty fucking entertained. I even had a Trump tattoo drawn up. Now it was to make fun of him. It wasn't like a praise Trump thing, but it was a Cheeto with a Trump wig on and American flag in the background and fireworks blowing off. So it would really appeal to everybody, Trump supporter or not, because it was a Trump tattoo, but it was also a mockery of a Trump tattoo. But in the end, I didn't do it. I was going to wait to see if he got his second term, and then I was going to think about it. And, you know, the way culture is right now and how much everybody is so torn apart over that, I just don't think people will find that tattoo funny.
I think it would have brought both sides together, if anything. I mean, it's just something to just break the ice on, I feel like.
Yeah, here's the thing, and this is my only advice if you get consumed with this politics thing, because goddamn am I consumed. If going on and watching people being shitty to each other on a daily basis doesn't make you want to try to be better to people around you, you know, your life is going to be miserable. The more hatred and negativity that comes out of politics on a daily basis just makes me want to hold more doors open for people, talk to more strangers, like, no matter what their background, just the divide is true. There's some people that take this way too much to heart, but in the end of the day, you should just want to be good to the people around you. So take that out of politics, and that's all I got to say about it.
And no matter how much of the hate that is involved in whatever it is that you're involved in, you could turn some good out of it, I feel like. And that's exactly what you are talking about. All the toxic and fucked up shit you're seeing is motivating you to do the opposite with whoever's around you in your circle and your customers, and it just passes down, you know. And I feel like that's what it's all about.
I mean, is there any other way to cure it? Like, how do we ever get past divide without just being good to each other?
Yeah, man. And honestly, I don't know. Like, I for somebody who was brought up, like, you know, looking for shortcuts, I'll admit, you know, shortcuts were something I was after. I finally found something where this is the one place where shortcuts will fuck you really hard and fast and can get your ass out of whatever it is that you're really loving. I love these animals so much where I don't want to risk any of that. I rather learn the hard way and long way, meaning not the hard way, but I rather just take the long route, you know. And I don't know, man. I feel like I feel like no matter what, animals will mature you. You know, if you're really passionate and you're really about it, the way you should be showing them attention, the way you should be, you know, doing by them, I feel like kind of put some maturity in you. If I don't know if you've ever experienced any of that, but
no, I couldn't agree more with that. And I always say too, with this hobby, and this completely revolves around what you're saying, is this hobby makes or breaks you in 5 years. Every 5 years there's a reset in this hobby, new faces, new breeders, new logos, new everything. Every 5 years we get this. Yep. And for new people to come in, old people or other new people have to go out sometimes. So, you know, you do see a revolving door of breeders in the industry. And again, like I said, there's a lot of reasons. Some are personal and they don't have a choice. Some burn themselves out early. It's, like I said, buying adult animals. I mean, shit, if you got on the hobby tomorrow, you bought a guy's collection, and next thing you know, you have nido, mites, and all this other stuff, it's going to burn you the fuck out. And there were a couple guys that came in the hobby years ago, spent millions of dollars, or over $1 million at least, had all these things go wrong with their collection, and then they just gave up. And like I said, that's really not uncommon for somebody to come into this hobby looking at it from maybe a dollar sign, but not looking at it because they loved animals. I always joke around, this hobby is just a bunch of used car salesmen, man, that just found another way to make a living. It's everybody's got a unique day job. And another tough thing about the industry is to be good at everything, to be well-spoken, to be good at sales, to be good with the animals, to have an eye to creatively mix things together. Like, there's some people that are amazing breeders, but can't talk to people for shit. Like, they sit behind the table, they don't, but some people just can't engage. They need the animals to do the talking for them. But, the reality is, in any balance, and where sometimes a partnership is good, is where, if you got one partner that'll talk like me all day long, and then you got another guy that just wants to nerd out on the animals 24 hours a day and breed them and feed them and do your thing, what a perfect dynamic. Like, you have everything you need between two people. There's other people in the industry, like there's 3 guys that I know. Every one of them have their own personality, but they all run the same business together. Even if it's on the DL, they do it. But you got like the guy that a lot of people think is an asshole. You have this other guy that most people like, but some people are suspicious. And then you got this other guy that everyone just fucking loves. So all 3 guys are trying to sell the same snake, and they're going to appeal to one of those people. Even if 2 people, or even if somebody hates these 2, as long as they like that guy, they're going to buy the snake. Yep. So, there's some dynamics where partnerships really do work out. In that one, it thrives and they do very well and they all get along very well. But, like I said, you just got to find your own in this hobby. It is easier coming with a partner sometimes too, especially when it comes to the financial end of things. $2 goes a lot further than $1. But in the end, man, I guess just like being in a band, people around you, you want to be around them all the time. And if you don't want to be around them all the time, why the fuck would you want to be their partner?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It really does.
Are you lying to me? That felt very ungenuine. Are you getting sleepy, bud? Those just sleepy eyes?
I'm just not even a little bit. I'm good. I'm just processing everything you're saying, but I don't know. I feel like it could go so many different ways coming into this without the knowledge behind not only how to breed something, but how to market yourself and build the relationships that you need to kind of get your name out there, because there are so many different ways of getting your name out there now, Dave, that, but without that people skill, without actually having people skill, it's going to be really difficult for you, I feel like.
I mean, here's the thing. My entire brand was a mustache and getting naked. And because of that, people started liking me. And the thing is, it's not like I created that because of that. That's just always been me, man. I've been getting naked and taking pictures since there was a MySpace. It's just always been my grind. But now, some reason people are liking it, and I'm like, okay, fuck, I found a niche, and it works for me. My marketing is just based on this, and the quality animals that we produce.
Right, 100%. Dude, okay, so with somebody wanting to bend for their first time, I mean, do you feel like there's a time and a place for when somebody should start bending? Or, I mean, what's your take with getting that kind of experience? Because some people try to hesitate, some people go right into it. But I mean, with vending nowadays, you have a name for yourself because how long you've been vending. But to just go into a vending place and not having any kind of really, I guess, credit to what you got going on, is, do you feel like it's going to be hard to sell animals at a show? Or
again, I agree. Certain animals can be hard at certain shows. And again, there's always a lot of variables in this, but let's say this, you don't want your first show being TINLEY. Just because you're at TINLEY, it doesn't mean you're making money. I've had TINLEY back in the day where I was making goose eggs, buddy, and I had a lot of really nice stuff on the table, and I got shut out. And that's the reality of things. My first show that I ever vended on my own, here's the thing with my coming up. I used to help out a guy named Tim, and he was in North Carolina, and I went to shows with him, and I helped him sell his animals, and I got experience that way. And then when Tim went out of business, I started working with a guy named Skinny, who was this like 400-pound Jew. And I did it with him for about a year and a half. But, you know, me and him were selling like, use this, use that. You know, he works with a few different species. And then I was lucky enough that I started doing shows with Limey down in North Carolina. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me when it came to learning show experiences, is I went there, I learned a lot from him. And then also he had 4 tables, all quality animals, diversity, geckos, frogs, savanna monitors when you get them in, all kinds of ball pythons, and other miscellaneous, house snakes back in the day when no one cared about house snakes.
Right.
So now I had a guy that I was traveling with and doing shows with. I was taking the rein on a lot of sales, doing a lot of the talking, letting him sit back and just enjoy his life. And I got a crash course in what to do. So like you said, having a mentor like a guy like Forrest, you know, go to a few shows with a guy like that, you know, listen to what he has to say to the customers, you know, try to learn a little bit from somebody else before you try to jump out there and do it on your own. Also, local shows, man. You know, if you're in a city where there's a show, don't just jump into Tinley. Do your local show a little bit. You know, connect to the customer by talking about how you are local. You know, if anything ever goes wrong, I'm right here, man. I'm going to help you out. Don't you worry, as long as you mean it. I wouldn't jump into a big one, I guess is what I'm getting at, regardless of your caliber of animal. But at the same time, let's say you're one of these guys that just jumped in the hobby, like JP, and your entire collection was bought by Ozzy and Justin and all these other high-end shit, and now you're making high-end shit. You don't want to go to your local show. Because there's a lot of shows we go to. I don't sell an animal that's over $1,000. I'll grind it out with 50 sales that are $200 and less sometimes, and then like 20 sales that are maybe between $200 to $400. And then if I do a couple $500, $800 sales, I'm happy. Like, and that's what some of these shows are going to be like. And because of that, we don't even take the high-end animals out. But if I'm going to go to Tinley, I'm only bringing bangers. I'm not fucking around. I want every snake to be $2,000 to $5,000, not just because it costs a couple dollars more to get that table, because I expect that customer to be there, where I don't expect that customer to be at a smaller show. Right. Now, there are a lot of breeders that'll bring those bangers out to little shows and they'll sell them. But for me personally, I find that animal has just as good of a chance of selling online. Why am I going to stress out this expensive animal by taking it to a show?
And it's a well-known fact, when people go to Tinley, they come to play. They're not fucking around. They come with stacks. And, you know, if it's one, shout out to my boy Steve Morphs. He had a good Tinley. I know that.
Everyone, man. I mean, everybody in my circle of friends, like, we did the math, and like our core group of guys made so much fucking money, it's not even funny. And it just, when you look at, like I said, we did the numbers on us 5, and it's a big fucking number. I'm not going to say it. We're thinking to ourselves, that's 5 of us. How much fucking money walked through the door this weekend, and how much money was actually spent at this show? I couldn't even guess how much money is spent at every Tinley, but it's got to be minimal $2 million, probably upwards of $5 million easily.
Yep, one show.
Fuck, man, we talked about the Pomona show, man. I bet you that show gets $10 million to the door some shows.
Dude, I mean, what's up? Are you, I mean, to talk about shows real quick, I mean, can we get you here in July for Anaheim? What's good?
Can you get me a fake vaccine card so I can come hang out with you a little bit?
100? I mean, no, I can't.
Okay, cool. I'll be there, buddy.
I got you.
No, if your state calms down a little bit, it's not a problem. But, you know, to tell you the truth, I've avoided certain states based on regulations. Like even Denver, Colorado right now, they're still up people's asses. So I haven't done a Denver show in like 2.5 years. I had to do a Pueblo show that's like 2.5 hours away because there weren't any regulations there. Anything that's going to impede people from coming to the show, why bother going to the show? If there's going to be a bunch of regulations that's going to stop maybe half the public to come to the show, why would you want to be there?
Well, I mean, I could tell you the one thing that, I mean, I'm not going to say it helped the whole like chilling out, because right now there's no vaccine required right now. You're good. They let you go right now technically, right? But even when there was a vaccine check, when there was the Reptile Super Show in January in Pomona, so many people still showed up and went through the whole process, and that kind of let the fucking people be like, all right, they're gonna obviously have what they need. So I think because of them showing that they are doing what they're asking, it made everything chill, is what I'm saying. So hopefully by July it would still be like this, and there will be no vaccine. You could cruise on over, and we'll fucking have a good time.
Fingers crossed. You Now, I really hope that's the case. Now, I do know that like one of the bigger gamer conventions this year has already been canceled and fears that there could be more COVID regulations coming up. You know, you got everything going on in China right now with the lockdowns. I'd like to believe that we're over the hump and this is over, but I'm a little scared this is going to be something that's going to keep on popping up off and on. And, you know, states like New York and California are going to be really tough states to actually vent for shows. I think there's going to be regulations at trade shows. That's me not being optimistic, buddy. But if they're already canceling some other bigger conventions coming up this year, I'm a little concerned about reptile shows.
I have a rebuttal for this one. You ready? You ready for this one? Yep. Well, look what's still on and cracking, my man. And I don't know if you know any much about Comic-Con, but Comic-Con is fucking massive. And it is on and cracking. So
well, when's Comic-Con?
Comic-Con's July 21st to the 24th. So it's like the week after the event that I'm throwing, which I want you to be at, and this Anaheim Super Show.
Is it July or June, man? I don't know why I was thinking you had it going on in June.
July 7th. July 7th.
Okay, tight. I think that works.
Tight.
I'm lucky enough I was invited on a herping trip with Julander, Hans, the Bolen's python breeder, his son, and I think a couple other guys. And I want to say that's June, and we're doing Arizona. I was thinking that yours was going on around the same time where I could just roll right up to California afterwards, but I'll find an excuse to come back out in July.
All right. Well, I mean, let me know how I can help you get you out because I really want you. Des is going to be there, Steven. It's going to be a great time. There'll be a lot of big people there, I'm telling you.
Just keep reminding me.
I will.
Like monthly, and then you could do like a countdown when it's 30 days out. But no, I'll check into that. I mean, if there's some cheap tickets, maybe I'll just grab a ticket. I mean, I hate to say it, fuck, man. Driving to Vegas and back in my SUV costs $740 in gas.
Oh my gosh. God.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
So like even like I would usually drive to Daytona in case I buy anything. I'm not driving to Daytona this year. Like I'm just gonna fly down and ship the animals back or send them back with somebody that's driving down there. But it's getting so expensive to drive. It almost makes sense just to fly everywhere.
I don't want, before we get off the topic of the show topic real quick, I have one other thing I want to ask you about in going back to like you were mentioning how JP is a high-end breeder. Like he goes to the other high-end breeders, buys their animals and breeds those animals. And that's what he has. If somebody is going for that type of, direction with their collection and they want to do shows, should they consider that? Like, if you do want to be going and vending shows and all you do is have high-end animals, you might run into a problem selling them at shows?
At some shows, yes. Like I said, I don't think a lot of shows you get the big buyer coming through the door.
Right.
There's a lot of shows I always joke around, like, when we bring like a big display and we do have some high-end with, a lot of times what happens is a walker does not buy my high-end animal, but that guy over here that just made $5,000 and has a day job, he's going to buy a $5,000 animal off my table because he's been eyeballing it all weekend. So now where I say maybe the walker might not be there for a JP if he does his small shows, the reality is when the vendors around him make a ton of money selling pets or lower end ball pythons, there's no reason why they wouldn't come over and reinvest in something to try to improve on what they're doing.
I mean, and then there's I don't want to say there's a bunch of breeders out there, but there are breeders who've been in this game 10 plus years and only kept themselves in the 200, 300, 500, no more than $1,000 snake per produced bracket, right? And some of those tend to think, well, the reason why we do this is because no one's really in the market for $5,000, $10,000 ball python snakes. Is that true? Do you feel like that's the case where that really not the average person who's even coming into this game nowadays is sought after those high price snakes?
I mean, you're talking about the 1% of America, buddy. I mean, how many you live in Cali. I'm sure you know a lot of rich people, but the reality is not many people are well off. Some people pinch the pennies just to buy one animal to get in. I mean, we have people ask us for payment plans on $200 animals still on Morph Market. A lot of times we say yes because I've been there and I understand that. Now, don't get me wrong, money does come in, but, when it comes to that big guy, maybe once every couple of years the industry sees that guy. Other than that, we get guys that come in with X amount of dollars, and it's going to vary. I mean, I can't say how many big spenders come in every year, but, another big thing is this is a worldwide market. No, I think it's tough, man, because here's the thing, too, where I talk about, like, chasing trends. Don Patterson said it best. There's the ball python market and there's the clown ball python market. Everything now is do it in clown, and you got to do it in clown. What's going to happen in 5 years when we go to the shows and everything's a clown ball python? You know what's going to happen? My spinner ball python is going to be worth more money because no one's going to have spinners anymore, and some asshole's going to want that rare ass animal I got on my table. So inevitably, everything is going to be worth something. Everything's always going to be worth something. Some things are going to be worth more. But to pretend that this hobby isn't fueled on pet money is silly. Everything is a pyramid scheme or like a tier system when it comes to breeders. The reality is, like I said, and the same thing goes for me. If I sell $20,000 in pets, I'm going to go spend $20,000 on a ball python or boa in hopes of making $20,000 in snakes someday, not $200 snakes. And now a lot of the money that people are generating to buy those expensive animals are based on pets that are being bought. I always joke around that, you know, how much money really comes into a show. Like, we all go to the bar afterwards and we all talk about how much money we made. And I talk to you and you say you made $5,000. And I say, yeah, I made $5,000 too. And that guy says 5 and that guy says 5. But what really happened was you made $5,000, gave it to me. I now have $5,000 and give you a snake. I give it to that breeder, and then it keeps going on. So a lot of these shows, we recycle the same dollar bill over and over again. And in the end, one guy saves it and takes it home and made $5,000. None of these other guys actually made $5,000. They had $5,000. They don't have $5,000 anymore. So the importance of this hobby in pet buyers is huge. In my opinion, pet buyers, in a way, really fuel our hobby, where the rest of us can play with these high-end trading cards amongst each other. But when it comes to that new big money coming in, like I said, it's a little more rare than I think people think.
I mean, one of the biggest arguments that was never able to go down on Unfiltered Reptiles podcast with Forrest and Miguel was because, you know, Miguel's not shy. He talks about, you know, how he makes good money off ball pythons. And Forrest used to call bullshit on that, you know, not him specifically, but just people saying they're making a living off ball pythons and that you can't really make a substantial living breeding just ball pythons. Forrest used to really believe this. And I was like, what? Like, I mean, shit, I can tell him right now he's lying. I mean, not lying, but he was full of shit. I've met plenty of people out there just working on ball pythons and they're living just fine. But I mean, but then, like, what's your case on that? I mean, do you feel like that's kind of chasing an endless dream, that people are coming into this wanting to hopefully do this for a full time? Do you feel like their heads are in the gutter, or do you feel like that's a possibility?
So here's the thing with Forrest. You know, Forrest really loved bragging on ball python people. You know, just in his nature. You know, when people work with certain species, sometimes like they hate on ball python people. You know, the training wheels. They used to call them like the training wheel breeders or some shit like that.
Right.
But you know what the biggest sale Forrest ever had his entire life was?
The scaleless python scale, right? The
$120,000 ball python deal. So for somebody, you know, I always gave him a hard time about that. I was like, motherfucker, all this other shit you have is because of ball python money. Like, you know, that big deal was so huge for what you were working on. Yeah. And, you know, that's where I always go back to me saying these really healthy debates we had and where we never saw eye to eye, because you'd say things like that. I'd be like, motherfucker, what about all that ball python money that bought all those Obronia? Like, what are you even getting at right now? Like, you know, and I make it like anybody who hates on ball pythons, I always say the same thing. That's fine. You don't have to like the species. But the reality is, without that species, there's not a hobby. There wouldn't be so many shows if there wasn't so many ball python breeders. ARS and Freedom Breeder wouldn't have been able to expand on their line and make all these other cages and all these other racks for other species. Like, ball pythons are the economy of this hobby. One way or another, that ball python money is going into some other aspect of this hobby, and it's always been that way. All these new rack companies that are coming up every day, people are putting fucking ball pythons in them for the most part. So you got to accept the fact that ball pythons are the economy. It doesn't mean that these other economies aren't doing well, but I probably sell 20 to 30 ball pythons before I sell one boa sometimes. And I've got some gorgeous fucking boas, and I don't understand why more people don't want them. So, like I said, I don't get caught up on this whole hating species or talking shit about ball pythons. Don't get me wrong, I do talk shit about ball pythons. I take it back. I talk a lot of shit about ball pythons. You just can't pretend like they don't have a huge impact on this hobby. You know, it was corn snakes, man. This whole hobby was corn snakes until we got ball python mutations. Then ball pythons completely took over. Corn snake guys sold their collections off, they bought ball pythons. Boa guys sold their collections off, they bought ball pythons. And then what happened years later? They went back to their passion. Colubrids are going through the roof on price now. Mexican black milks were $80 and now they're $250, $200 on everyone's table. Like, now people are going back to like nostalgia animals, early day animals. There's certain projects that you can't even find anymore, unfortunately, because people stopped breeding them years ago. Like I said, hate your ball pythons, make fun of the ball python breeders, you know, whatever else. But, you know, this industry is built on ball python money.
Bro, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, during when Forrest was alive and during that era, I had not only him, but other non-ball python keepers give me so much shit on why I was so vesting on buying more ball pythons. And I mean, I always give credit when due. Ball pythons is what brought me into this world to begin with. Like, I was only brought into this because of a fucking Brian BARCZYK video that made me want to buy more snakes. And that's how it just led to this, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't even know where I was going with that.
You are maybe more passionate about other species over ball pythons, but ball pythons got you in?
Right. Okay. Yes. So what I'm saying is, like, no matter where I'm at with my projects, passion-wise, money-wise, I always will have ball pythons a part of what I do. No matter what the money is at, where that I love and appreciate what ball pythons have brought into my life. And I still think they're cool. I mean, at the end of the day, I still feel like people are full of themselves when all they do breed is ball pythons and they think they're immaculate. And it's like, you know, chill. Like, you know, like the animals are doing the work. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, I can never just shun myself to a ball python project ever. Like, that's my foundation. It's my savior.
Here's the thing, and, you know, I do agree and disagree with you on this one. My only disagree is this. I truly believe that there's more thought into ball python breeding now than ever before. Like I said, the old mentality was a new gene would come in and we mix it with the same typical genes over and over again. And we were kind of stuck in our ways. Yeah. And then we actually started creating. The ball pythons we're making today are so fucking incredible compared to what we were making 10 years ago. But then you think about 10 years ago, like we said, we saw that. Fuck, man, I remember the first time I saw a bumblebee at White Plains. I think Jeremy Stone Kevin McCurley was walking through White Plains like that thing was nothing, just fucking swinging in his hand. It's like a $25,000 animal, and my head's just doing this. Holy fucking shit, it's a bumblebee ball python. That is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my whole life.
Yeah.
But again, things change. And, you know, genes that have existed for 10, 15 years, people are now finding ways to unlock them and combine them with things that make sense, where before you just kind of, you know, made things work. You know, even like with Ozzy, something I got a lot of respect about that guy is Ozzy used to be huge. Like, I think Ozzy used to have like 1,000 ball pythons or something crazy like that, at least 300, 400, 500. Right. And then he saw a shift, like just before the banana market crashed and the GHIs crashed with it, he quietly narrowed it down to, I want to say, 40 to 60 animals of his absolute primo animals.
Yep.
And now everything he makes is fucking primo. So, and you see that with a lot of people now in the industry. They have, like Chad. Chad's not expanding his collection. He's just always improving on his collection. He's got a space that he can do his collection in. And if he's going to put something new in it, something else has got to go away. Guys like Ozzy are doing the same thing. You see Ozzy put up male breeders every once in a while. You know, proven breeders that he used for a season or two, because he's already upgraded them with one of their babies. So like I said, there's a lot of different ways to run a business and make money in this hobby. You know, some people love the mass production of it. Some people want to produce thousands of animals and always have that stimulant. And other people want to be small and selective and make a lot of money with minimal effort. But the thing is with doing that is it's a larger investment when you decide to do that to get in the hobby. You know, what is it? I'm giving a lot of people a lot of credit for quotes, but Tim Bailey. Tim Bailey's comment on the Sunset Project. Tim Bailey bought a het sunset male and bred that thing for 2 or 3 seasons before he ever bought a sunset male. He said he did that for one reason. The only thing you're getting out of buying that 5-gene clown or that really expensive recessive right off the bat is you're buying time. That is it. He is now producing sunset ball pythons, and he did it on a dime. Same thing with Ben. Ben dropped $70,000 on the first ever female sunset, and it came with a het sunset male. That female sunset, the first time he bred it, did not produce a sunset, and he bred it to a het. He questioned whether or not his hets were even real hets. He was losing his mind. But then he bred two of his possets together. He made 2 sunsets, and he sold those 2 sunsets for $35,000 a piece, and essentially was even on the project. But now here's my point. He spent $70,000. What if he spent $10,000 on that het male, made his own hets like he inevitably did, bred them together to inevitably make those 2 animals he made, and instead of now being even on the project, he'd have been $60,000 in the black. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this, but when you go after a high-end animal right off the bat, you're buying time, and that's really it. You can get there on the cheap route. Maybe it's a little less fulfilling for you, and if you got the money to spend it. I'm not going to tell you not to. We spend it all the time. But, you know, if you're going to buy a $10,000 animal, you're just buying, you know, time.
I feel like shout out to my Patreon members or just anyone who I talk to on a personal level about like, you know, ball python stuff. I feel like, you know, other than them, some people like on Morph Market who would inquire about visuals that I have just sold or I don't have any, I would have heads, 100% heads. And, you know, I would even tell them like, hey, you could save yourself some coin and just invest in this, wait a couple of years and then get that male and, you know, go after the heads. And a lot of them pass on that opportunity. Nah, you know, I want to get this, or, you know, I'd rather drop the additional $2,000 or whatever the fuck the case may be. But a lot of those like walked away, and I was like so like surprised. I was like, dude, what's wrong? Like I built and not, you know, the things that I'm building right now are based off all heads. And then until I was able to afford to get my visual, but for the most part, I still roll the dice with heads all the fucking time, and you know, it works.
You know, I always made the joke too over the years. You know, whether you make $300,000 a year or $60,000 a year, you probably have the same amount of money in savings because you're just buying nicer cars, nicer clothes, nicer shit when you got that money. When you got 60, you live within your means, but at the end of the month, you guys have the same amount of money left. Right. Same thing goes for when you want to buy into ball pythons or any of the species. If you have the means, people are going to take that jump and spend the money. People that don't have the means don't get discouraged. You know, monsoon's a great example. If you go out right now and buy a het monsoon male, breed it for a couple years, wait for the price to come down a little bit where you can maybe afford a visual male, you now have a small army of hets you've been making on a dime. And then later on, you will make probably more money on your investment, but it's going to take longer for you to get there. Where, you know, somebody who buys a visual male is going to have 100% hets to sell for years. Pos hets don't sell for shit. If I make pos het stuff, man, I sell to the pet trade. I don't mean to be an asshole or say this, but I bet you I probably have sold 50, 100% het sunset males over the years as pets. Like, certain things just don't sell, and you got to accept that. You know, you think everything's worth a premium. Some things are just not worth the premium.
So true. You couldn't say it better than myself. I mean, that's awesome. I have to ask you this, Dave. This might ruffle some JKR groupies out there a little bit, you know, but you mentioned this a while ago at a show when we were talking, because, you know, not to take anything from Justin, you know, and him being considered an untouchable in the ball python game right now, but you felt like things would possibly be different if Ben were still around, right? Do you feel like he would at least be giving him run for his money, if not at where he's at with the direction he was going with the ball pythons?
You know, I wouldn't look at it that way or kind of go in that direction. How about this? Here's the most important thing about a lot of people working within a species. You can't do everything yourself. And the reality is, with the Justin too, and anybody else, you can't have every great idea. You see someone else do something and you generate an idea for it or around that one thing. Similar things happen in the skink community. The reality is skinks blew up overnight, and because that pairings that maybe I wasn't willing to do, someone else did, and they got something unique out of it that created a new direction for people to go in that part of the hobby. Now, Ben was always going to be that mad scientist when it came to what he made. And he was always going to make something cutting edge, and that was never going to change. But, you know, where I talk about that recipe or those ingredients that take you where you're taking you, you know, Ben's ingredients were very different than Justin's ingredients. So in the end, they never would have been doing the same thing. They always would have had their own little thing at the end of the day. Now, they would have invested in each other. You know, Justin talks about it. The first spot-nosed clown ever created was by Ben, and Justin bought it. Thank God Ben made that animal, because look at the amazing things that Justin was able to do with that animal. Animals that Ben might not have ever even thought about making. You know, like I make a comment about the bonfire. Maybe an accident. You know, we didn't know it was going to be something that cool, and it was something really cool. You know, did Justin know that the Pompeii was going to be the Pompeii? No. But he put genes together in hopes of making something unique, and he got there, where other people didn't get there, sadly. But they have always had the resources to get there. Even like the Dreamsicle project, man. Fuck, Ralph Davis made the first Dreamsicle in 2003, 2004.
It's crazy.
And it took like another 7 years before a combo was made by simply putting pastel or something in there. And still to this day, there's not that many Dreamsicle combos out there. But this is something we've been staring at for 15, 16, 17 years. More people in any species is good, because one person can't do it all. And the more people you have in it, the more creativity you're going to have within that species. So more the merrier. Let's get a million more ball python guys out there. William up in Canada said it best, or he did that whole, I think he wrote it up as this: to make every single 6-gene ball python that we have right now, or 6-gene combination with the genes we're playing with, we can make 13 million different combinations. We are never going to fucking come close to what ball pythons are going to do. In 20 years from now, we're going to do something that we could have done today that we're going to be like, holy fuck, why didn't we think about that sooner? So, yeah, it's the truth, though. So, yeah, like the conversation, and I don't remember all the details of me and Justin, and I know it was all positive because I try not to be an asshole.
It wasn't. No, you even said
Okay.
nothing to take away from Justin, because we were talking about how far he has taken this, and it's mad props to Justin. Like he's taking the baton and just fucking rocking it, you know. But like, what if Ben was still around? What if Ralph Davis was still around? What if Ralph never would have threw the towel in? You know, there's just so many what ifs is what I'm just trying to get at, you know.
No, I couldn't agree more. You know, Ralph Davis is a good one, because what did Ralph have, man? He had Dreamsicles. He had lavender cheese stripes. Oh, fuck me, it came right out of my mouth. He had lavender cheese stripes. And that was back in the same year. Like, he was doing pie combos. Motherfucker, I think was one of the first ones that had blackheads. And that was a lifetime ago. And now look how hot blackhead is right now. And we're now just seeing blackhead clowns right now. If Ralph kept the grind going, Ralph would have probably made a blackhead clown 10 years ago. You know, he was going after recessive combos and double recessives before a lot of other people in the industry were. You know, and that just kind of talks about like different ways of running your business. You know, you have certain people in the industry that are very successful coming in and always buying whatever is hot. Like whether you're chasing Hurricane when it was worth $1 million or any other gene, they buy it when it's at its peak. They'll spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on a male, and they will fucking make bank on it. But then the moment that market comes down, they go in and buy the next thing, and they discard that thing and they move on, and they pump them out and they make a good living doing it. And then you get other people that are doing a little more the creative side, doing certain crosses. Again, there are a lot of different ways to make a living. You just got to figure out what works for you.
It's strategic at the end of the day.
Yeah. I'm a broken record when I say this, but again, there's 100 ways to do this, 100 directions you can go. You'll figure out the way that makes sense for you, and that'll keep you motivated.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, what's your approach as far as if somebody wanted to, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get off topic here, but.
No, we can always come back to this, man. We're like 3 hours into this. Better get off topic.
No, I'm just saying, the biggest thing nowadays is like, you know, trusting somebody with your projects or what you have in mind. You know, collaborations is what I'm getting at. You know, I feel like you should be definitely careful when it comes to that. But I just don't know how you would approach that coming new into this. Because, I mean, if it's one thing I've seen recent, you know, or in the past, is people coming out bitching about how they got fucked on a breeder loan or something like that, you know. And I mean, some people feel like they want success so quickly, or they want to move up the ranks so bad where they're willing to, you know, go collab with somebody else just to get quicker up. You know, I don't know. I feel like that's a dangerous game to be playing. I feel like.
I agree. Here's the thing: even the best of us have fucked people over at least once. And like I said, partnerships are not always the best idea. Breeder loans sound good, but again, man, when that guy's got your animals in his hand, he hatches out those babies. It's money signs in his eyes, and he stopped thinking about you on the spot. So here's the thing: by doing things like that, you feel like you're getting a little further ahead in the hobby, getting there a little faster.
Right.
But sometimes you're taking 2 steps backwards. So, you know, the reality is figure out your own shit before you start worrying about doing shit with other people. You know, you can't come into this hobby arrogant either. Can't come in here expecting to know how the games run. So you've done it for a while, you don't know how it is. And again, breeder loans always look good on paper, but holy fuck, man, I probably have more stories about breeding loans fucking people over than it actually working out.
Right. I mean, even to this day, I mean, like if there's something out there, like we haven't really talked about this yet, David. I'm just curious. I mean, projects that are eyeing, like that you're eyeing to this day that you don't have, is that even happening ball python wise? Like, are there projects that you see that you want to add that you don't have yet, or you just focus elsewhere?
I want everything, bud. I'll be honest. I drool over people's combos all the time. You know, genes that maybe I wasn't like on the radar suddenly get on my radar. I mean, I'm always mentally shopping, even if I'm not spending money. You know, the one thing in this hobby too that I tell a lot of people is whether you're a flipper or whether you're a breeder, the moment you stop investing is the moment you become stagnant. Especially in a ball python industry that literally changes every year. Yeah. Like, I was talking to my buddy. I got offered tri-stripes 10, 15 years ago for $200 a piece, and I said no. The guy couldn't sell them for shit. I just said, I don't think I could sell them either. I don't want to invest in this. I wish I did. And there were people like, fuck, man, look at the paint project. Yeah. Like, you know, there's certain people like, you know, my friends Grant and Mary, they stuck it out on that project for 10 years and nobody wanted it. They stuck it out on that project for probably more like 12 or 13 years and nobody wanted it. Now, how fucking lucky are they to have that project?
They're killing it.
Oh, yeah. So, like, you know, like I said, I'm always shopping. I'm always, like I said, dude, I'm looking at rosy boas. Those things are going to make me no fucking money. But I want to buy every fucking one from every mountainside you can get it off of. Like, you know what I mean? Taking it out of the wild. Let's clear that up really quick. But I want it all. And the same thing with garter snakes right now. I want it all. Because I'm used to having this. Yeah. What was that?
Chondros?
Here's the thing about chondros. If I was going to be a chondro guy, I'd be a chondro guy. I have a lot of respect for that community, but I do think it's a meticulous species that a lot goes into. Like the same reason why I said I would not buy eyelash vipers. I fucking love every arboreal viper there is.
I love those.
But until that day comes where I can truly just be in that room and just focus on them on a daily basis, I can't see myself doing that. And with green tree pythons, I feel like it'd be the same thing. I feel like they would get lost in the madness of this collection. And I know that kind of makes it maybe sound a little less compassionate about what we're doing. And I promise you, man, I fucking love everything we're doing here. But, you know, for things like that I consider more passion pieces, like if I was going to get a Boland's python, I think that's going to come later on in the hobby. I just don't think I would tackle anything like that right now.
Respect. Now, I have a wrap-up question before we get to the hot seat questions. Okay, Dave? And I'm curious, man, and you can be honest. Because I always wanted to ask you, and I was curious of this question. It's kind of like a double question, but who has really overall inspired you the most throughout the entire time working with reptiles? Overall, just where you're at in life, who do you feel like has given you the most fire and the most inspiration to this day?
Here's the thing. There's not one person. You know, I made the comment, there's been certain people at certain parts of my life that I've been around in this hobby that I've taken so much from. Right. So I can't tell you one person. I mean, I can list off guys like Forrest and Ben and Junior at JMG and Jeff, Ronnie, and fuck, I'm talking to Vin Russo all the time now. You know, I got my first real expensive boa from Tom Burke, and sadly we lost him this past year. You know, now where I didn't have a relationship with Tom Burke and we didn't talk on the regular, he was extremely cordial to me at the shows. I talked to him when I could. But, you know, the reality is that first animal I bought from him was so crucial in everything I did. You know, I spent so much more money on that lipstick albino than any other albino, but then I made a higher quality animal right off the bat, which made it easier to sell in a community that focuses on quality. I'm not going to pinpoint one person because, again, I've got a little something out of everybody at the medical end and so on and so forth. And there's names I'm leaving off. But, you know, like I said, the experience I got with working with Limey and everyone else at the show is like, the list is too long, man. You know, I got so much from so many people. I'm not going to say one person more than anybody else.
Respect. It's not the answer I wanted, but respect. I'm just kidding.
Okay, yeah. Was it going to be you, or was there a name? Do you put a name in my mouth? You know, it was a thing. Like, and you know, I tell people all the time, you know, I'm still a fucking fanboy in this industry, buddy. Like, if I call Tracy Barker and she answers the phone tomorrow, I'm just going to be all fucking weak in the knees, and I'm going to talk for as long as she wants to talk to me. You know, there will never be a point in this hobby where I'm not a kid in a candy store, man. I love the hobby. I love, like, who the fuck did I meet a couple shows ago? Doug Bars. I always thought Doug Bars was this old guy, probably just based on how long you've been in the hobby. You probably don't even know the fuck Doug Bars is. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But he was a guy that had been building rack systems and cages and display cases, but he was just a guy that I always knew based on that part of the industry. And I got to meet him in Arlington 2 shows ago. Me and that motherfucker sat up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. There was nobody left. We're sitting outside just doing our thing. And he was just telling me stories about the hobby 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I care more about that than anything else. Like, I get off on those conversations. I want to hear all the stories. I want to hear about what came before something else. Like I said, I am a fucking dork when it comes to this hobby. Like, I am all in all the time. I go on the road. I go to a show. When the show's over, if I'm not getting a bite to eat, I'm going out snake hunting. Me, Adeline, Chris, my buddy Eric, Bree was there. My buddy, I'm forgetting names right now. Always gonna hate me. Always so big, he's gonna beat the shit out of me. Nonetheless, Jones. We all went herping. We went herping after the show was over on Sunday until like 11 o'clock, and then we got a hotel room and went herping again in the morning. Like, I just want to do reptile stuff. I've been doing reptile stuff since I was 5 years old. There's nothing else I want to be doing.
And I don't, you know, I'm going to top it off with one last question because, you know, if it's one thing people are coming to me and asking me, I have a lot of different hustles going on. You know, a lot of it is majority ball pythons, and that does scare me. I don't want that to be the case. That's why I'm working really hard on this podcast right now, so I don't have to rely on animal money. But there's a lot of people just asking me what they can do or how to do animals full time, and I don't really have an answer for that. But for you, if you had somebody who you were kind of mentoring or somebody that you wanted to win, you know, and you know they really wanted to do this full time, how would you, like, you know, what would you tell them? Like, and they're asking you, hey, how can I do this full time?
Well, and you know, again, it just depends on the person and how big their wallet is. You know, I mean, that's really the truth. You know, I mentioned with me, you know, on that first podcast, I never had money growing up. I never had money when I got out of high school. I was working a job that I was making $10 an hour making postage stamps. I sold my body to science, taking pills and sitting in a hospital for a week to get a $3,000 check to buy a $3,000 snake. Like, it just depends on what sacrifices you're willing to make. And then at the same time,
that's sacrifice.
Your lifestyle is going to reflect what's coming in. You're always going to have to reinvest in this hobby. You're always going to have to find another project you're going to want. You got to decide what kind of lifestyle you want to live outside of the hobby. Like, if all your money or X amount of money is going to have to go into the hobby every year, don't go out and buy a $300 pair of shoes. Go out and buy a $20 pair of shoes. Don't go out to an expensive dinner. Cook at home. The reality is, for some people coming in this hobby, you're going to make sacrifices. But then we have other people that do come in with the means to create a business and get there a lot faster. Now, that's a completely different ballgame for them. That more comes down to customer service, in my opinion, and marketing your company. Because when you're a new guy in a big hobby, you got to find a way to stick out. And again, that's where I give people like JP and Brittany Gobble and Miguel a lot of credit. They came in and they find a way to stick out before they even produced an animal. Like, they established themselves before they did anything.
Damn. Very, very
So,
true.
yeah, like I said, there's 100 different answers to that just based on it. Like I said, my grind was just some dirty, dirty stuff, bud. I've done some stuff.
And you got to learn how to love the dirty shit to get to the good stuff. So props
Plus,
to you, man.
again, you know, like I said, too, you know, I was fortunate enough that, you know, guys like Ben were sending me boxes of snakes and I would make a commission off them. I had guys that were Jeff was sending me boa constrictors. Junior was sending me leopard geckos and fat-tailed geckos. My partner Bill in Buffalo was sending me lychees and chihuahuas and crested geckos. I always had this very diverse table. Even though I didn't produce everything, I was lucky enough that I was able to make these commissions off of other people's achievements, and that helped out a lot. So again, my grind to get where I'm at was a lot of little weird things along the way. I probably should have quit a couple times, but I just didn't. So again, man, you know, it just depends on what level you're coming in and what you're trying to do.
Couldn't agree more, my man. Well, listen, what an amazing 3 hour and 10 minutes. We got hot seat questions before you head out. But, you know, dude, Dave, I need you back, bro. Like, I need more. Like, this isn't, you know what I mean? Like,
every once in a while, hit me up. Let me know if we're talking to somebody. I'll maybe come on and mess with you with somebody else. We'll have some fun. Nobody just wants to hear me talk all the time. And I already told you, man, I'm promoting myself on here.
Good.
Just doing this with you again made me realize how much I miss it. I really want to get back to my own podcast. Like, perfect. I'll be straight. The fucking conversations, just doing this with people. Again, man, I nerd on this 24 hours a day like you are right now. I genuinely miss talking to people about animals on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, I just love hearing you, man. And I'm telling you right now, I don't mind listening to what you have to say. You're like a forest to me. Once you talk, all I'm doing is retaining information that's basically historical. I mean, this has all been 3 hours of just history. I mean, this is awesome, man. I appreciate it so much.
Next time we do this, let's do more history stuff, though. Right. Let's talk about the nostalgia stuff. Let's talk about the good old days, the bad old days. Like, you know, I feel like today everything was let's groom new people to come into the hobby and not fail. And I'm all about that because I want to see everyone succeed. But, you know, next time I'd love to go a whole nother direction with this.
We'll go deeper next time into the history books. I promise you that. Okay. By the way, listen, I didn't even ask you. How did you told me, hey, bud, I see you have Justin Gabelka on at TINLEY. I would be impressed if you do a whole episode and you don't talk about ball pythons. I did it. I didn't get no props.
Oh, I didn't watch the podcast. Okay, here's the thing, man. Are you ready for one of the most piece of shit things I got to say?
Oh,
do you know how many reptile podcasts I've listened to since I've been in this hobby?
0.
1. I listened to one podcast one time, and I don't know why I don't do podcasts, mainly because I don't have internet half the time, which you know. I drove to TINLEY with William Philippek, who loves his podcasts, and we listened to the Bob Boo podcast on Snakes and the Fat Man. And that was years ago. Literally to date, the only podcast I've ever listened to that was reptile related from beginning to end.
Well, shout out to Chris Eaton. At least my boy got it. I thought it was going to be Bob Boo me. I was about to get excited, but nope, that just right down the drain.
I didn't even listen to you and Chad.
Wow.
I know.
All right, let's get this over with because I'm just getting pissed. All right, hot seat questions, Dave. Are you ready for these hot seat questions, my man?
Yeah, lay it on me.
All right, here we go. I don't need any explanation. The quicker, the better. That's what she said. You ready?
Rapid fire. I got it, man. No long-winded answers.
All right, hot seat questions, custom scales coming in hot. Frozen thought or live?
Whatever it takes, man.
No, you had to pick one. If God said you cannot just keep feeding these animals both, you have to dedicate to either frozen thought or live. What would you pick?
Frozen thought would be pretty convenient. Let's just say that.
A cut or no cut?
I was cut for years, but I think that's really more for me than the animal. If they ain't coming out of the egg, they weren't going to make it in the first place. Us cutting aren't doing shit for them. So I try not to cut, but at the end of the season, when there's only a couple clutches left, I'm probably going to cut them.
Chondro or emeralds?
Man, I'm a bow guy. I'm going emerald all day long.
Nice. Pre-first shed meal or post-first shed meal?
Post.
Yay imports or boo imports?
Wouldn't have this hobby without imports, buddy.
Okay, cool. One reptile you could import anywhere from around the world today if you could.
Oh, man. Well, it's got to be Australian because it's the holy grail and everything.
So what would it be?
Oh, shit, that one Australian animal? You know what? Here's the thing. Just because it's an amazing showpiece, Goldfield shingleback blue-tongue skinks.
Oh, okay. Wow.
They look tribal as fuck, man. You ever seen one of those guys?
I've seen that. I don't know if I've seen that specific one, but I've seen that species of lizard before for sure.
It's like orange, white, and then black in columns down the animal.
Jesus. Crazy. Okay, one reptile we should never import ever again.
Iguana.
Okay. To miss the reptile or to not miss the reptile?
Again, depends on the species, man. You know, you overmiss something that's low humidity, you're just going to kill it.
Ball python. To spray a ball python, to not spray a ball python?
Man, these are loaded answers now. I thought this was hot seat. Well, you use a Reptichip, you're not using Reptichip. If I'm using aspen bedding, I'm going to spray them. If I'm using Reptichip, there's no reason to spray them.
I'm saying, do you agree to spray in general, or do you not agree to spray? Is what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, bro. Now you're coming off a little hostile. Yes, I like to spray my reptiles.
Okay, hold on. Where are we at? Jesus, sports or no sports?
Fucking love sports, buddy. If you're at the St. Louis NARBC coming up, I'll be playing hockey that weekend in St. Louis. Also, I got a tournament.
So safe to say, hockey's your favorite sport.
Oh, I'm fucking dirty at hockey, buddy.
Favorite hockey team?
It's always been the Buffalo Sabres because I grew up in Buffalo.
Steak or fish?
Oh, steak all day long, buddy.
Alcohol or no alcohol?
Recreationally, no. At the shows, yes.
Van Halen or Sammy Hagar?
Well, I'm named after David Lee Roth, so I can't say Sammy Hagar. So, you know, the other one.
Okay. West Coast rap or East Coast rap?
Oh, man, is it even rap anymore? Where was Busta Rhymes from?
He's East Coast. He's from New York.
I'm an East Coast guy then.
Okay, cool. Little word association. First thing to come to mind, milk.
Cows.
Favorite ball python codon?
Yellow belly. Most diverse gene we have.
Least favorite ball python codon?
Anyone who posts a picture of their dinker.
Coco.
Yeah, right. Actually, that's mine. Did you take my fucking name?
Oh my God. All right. Let's see where we at. Instagram trolls.
I've never been trolled before. So what's the question? Wait, I think I forgot what we were doing. Was it a yes or no? Oh, word association. Okay. Yeah, bro, that's not a word. Like, that was a whole fucking comment. I got nothing for you on that one.
Okay. All right. Listen, at the end of the day, you are very popular on one platform, but if we had to pick just one platform to be around on this fucking earth, are we going to keep Facebook or are we going to keep Instagram? Which one are we keeping and which one has to go?
Well, I'm a magazine guy, so I'm going to have to go with Instagram.
All right. Respect. I don't like that. Dave, this has been an amazing time. Exactly what I wanted. I appreciate it. We had well over 100 people consistently in this fucking live. I mean, the likes are well over 100. But what do you have to say to all your supporters out there? Everyone who just met you for the first time and fell in love with you. What do you have to say to everyone out there who's fucking with you, bro?
Well, I don't know if anybody's fucking with me, but I do enjoy free shit. So if you know where I'm going to be and you want to bring me anything ever, I'll put it in my mouth or put it on my body every single time. Also, if this is it, because Megan requested it, let me take off all my MJ swag and Oh, that
Wow.
fucking thing right here, buddy.
It
How
is
nice is
beautiful.
that?
Dude, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate it so much. We will continue this again. I can tell you that much, and we will get historical with it. But this is it, man. It's been a wrap. Thank you so much, Dave Levinson, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, buddy. Had a great time.
You too, man. Thank you. Fuck, what a guy. Thank you so much, everyone who hung out for this fucking 3 hours and 20 minutes. Man, this was epic. But yes, guys, if you happen to come in late into the show, it's never too late to hit the like button. So get that like button for my man Dave. And fuck, what an episode, man. One for the books, as I knew it would be. And yeah, man, you guys enjoy the rest of your night. And shout out to all my trappers out there. Shout out to all my Patreon members. You guys are amazing. Love you guys. And I'll catch you guys Saturday right here. Trap Talk with MJ. It's going to go down, man. But your boy's out. Have a good night.